You are listening to the Mountainside Podcast, and joining us back in studio is my friend, UFC Middleweight, Cody Brundage is back in the house. I always enjoy any time that I get to spend with Cody. He's an incredible human that has an amazing outlook on life. I cannot wait to see him back in the octagon. He's got an incredible matchup coming up in March. This was an absolute great conversation. It dove all over the place. It was great to have him back, starting off the year with another hammer. Enjoy the episode. Cody Brundage, back in the motherfucking house. This has been the most anticipated podcast I was trying to get you in last year, but schedule's been crazy, man. So stoked to have you back.
Good, man. Super happy to be back. You know, this is one of my favorites to watch, to be on. All my homies are a part of it. So, feel like part of the team.
Yeah, man. It's cool. It's become like a little bit of a community where I just have so many mutual friends that have sat across from me. And now they've become friends or they've forged relationships. Like, shout out to Jeremiah Wilbur. We were just chatting up about him. Like, he's been a longtime friend of mine, or I guess 4 or 5 years since the inception of the podcast. And
yeah,
it's kind of funny.
He shows up at the gym. Next day, I see him on the Mountainside Podcast. I'm like, man, small world, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's cool.
No, it's cool, man. We got a cool little community going. Just like good people. Like we were saying, like trying to keep it good people.
That's the key.
There's a few sly motherfuckers that try to slip in there every once in a while. Hell yeah. So big fight news, man. Got a fight coming up in March. About to head into camp if you're not already in it, right?
Yeah, I'll get into it. Like, this coming week will be like my first real week of like consistent, all my like training laid out. I've been training, but I've been trying to give myself more of a break. After my last fight, I took 4 months off. I didn't do anything, which was pretty crazy for me. I mean, I was coaching, but I wasn't training at all. I was like, I'm just going to give my body and time and brain time to kind of heal and really decide if I even want to keep fighting. I love fighting, but I fought 6 times in 14 months. Damn, I think since crazy. Since I got signed in 2021, me and Kevin Holland were the most active fighters in the UFC.
Really?
Yeah, we both had 10 fights. He fought the week before me in 2021, and up until my fight in July, we had both had 10 fights. So,
well, and it's been nothing short of hammers, dude. Like who you've been going against. It's not like there's some guys that kind of get to skate through the
they get some
rankings a little bit, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's good. Like I don't have any regrets like taking the fights. A lot of them were short notice, but I feel like it really put me in a position to stay with the company. You do favors for the UFC, and that's why I'm still there and on my 4th, 5th contract. And now I have a good fight I feel good about, and I truly feel like, man, I want to fight. Whereas before, I always wanted to fight, but it was like, why do you want to fight? Well, I want to make my family proud. I want to make my coach proud. I got to make the team proud. And then you kind of, at least for me, I realized like, man, those people are going to be proud of me regardless of if I'm fighting or if I was a firefighter, or if I was a teacher, like they're going to be proud of me. So do you want to do it because you just like doing it and you're good at it and that's something you enjoy? And I was like, yeah. But if the answer was no, I would not fight again, right? Like if
it really can't be right at that level, I would think. I mean, I don't know. I've never been there, but I would think you have to be fully fucking invested to even have a chance at competing, because anybody that you go up against is an absolute savage. Once you get to that level, I don't think that there's anybody.
I try to tell like people that don't train or even train a little bit, I'm like, the UFC, like, it's the talent level is unbelievable. Like the worst guy in the UFC is in the top 1% of fighters in the world. And to like even put that in comparison, I'm like, if you saw the worst UFC fighter fight somebody on the street like that's never trained and they got into a fist fight, it would look like a grown adult playing with a toddler. And people don't really understand that. They can't wrap their brain around that. Like if I told you, if you went and got your buddies and played a football game against the NFL, you'd be like, yeah, we get killed. But for some reason, like fighting doesn't compute for people. They're like, oh, I can
especially
fight.
With the fans, dude.
Yeah, it's unreal.
This is why I don't like going to events. Like the last UFC I went to was the one here in Denver. And I found myself in the middle of some bullshit. Like, luckily, I was sitting in family and friends to start with.
Right.
But I went up to go visit some friends in like the 300s. And next thing you know, like some asshole is like literally like coming down the stairs. And you know how steep the stairs are at Pepsi Center?
Oh, yeah.
Up there. And it's just like sucker punching people on the way down. And he's coming down behind me. And luckily I was sitting like 4 or 5 seats in. I was like, don't get involved. And I'm very much the guy that has put myself in some bad situations that I didn't need to be in for just sticking up for people, I guess. I've
got
always
to.
kind of had like that
Which is a good thing.
protect and provide mentality, right? Like, but fuck, man. And then the asshole like ended up like basically on the edge. You know how they have those little like glass things up so you
those
can
aren't
see
stopping
through?
anyone, bro.
Bro, and he's like, literally, this guy is like, fuck, I don't want anything to do with you. And is like, turn looking at the ground, and he's punching him in the back of the head. So then this guy got up, and the guy was like twice the dude's size. Of course, he's picking out the small guys. He didn't pick me out coming down the stairs, you know? So I'm thinking like security's got to be
coming any minute,
in a minute or something. And there's a security guard standing right there at the bottom scared to death to do anything.
Yeah.
It just pissed me off. Yeah. And then I just waited for Denver PD. And as soon as the cops showed up, I was like, this guy started fucking sucker punching people all the way down.
You had a ton of
and as
people
soon
to
as I
witness
told
it,
my
too.
story, I was leaving, dude. I wanted to watch Rose fight. So I was like headed out. And I was going down the escalator. I was like, I'm just going to fucking leave, dude. I don't even want to
be caught
deal
up in
with
this
this
shit, yeah.
And I saw Brandon Gertz was coming up the escalators. I was like going down. He's like, what are you doing? Let's go hang out at we went to somebody's suite or something. I watched the fight there.
Nice.
But man, to be with like,
it's crazy.
nothing
man.
against fans, but like you get alcohol
I think
involved and like
this is
people
not a
think they can
opinion,
fight.
but I think MMA fans are the worst. I think they're the most toxic. I think because no one thinks they could go be Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
But there's tons of people out there that are like, I could be Cody Brundage. Right. They just think that because you go ask a man, because men, that's just how men are, especially men.
Yeah.
Yo, can you fight? Yeah, I can fight. I can handle myself. Why? Why do you believe that? Why do you have so much confidence in that? Have you ever trained? No, I just know I can scrap. You're like,
Well,
okay.
and everybody's got a story about how they got in a fight and kicked somebody's ass or something. It's like, I don't know, man. The stories that I want to hear, like to take it back to operators, we were kind of talking about like high level military operators.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those guys don't need to brag about anything that they've done if they can even talk about it.
Yeah, I mean,
But I want to hear the stories like when somebody can sit there and tell you a time that they got their ass kicked.
Yeah.
That's
You're like, okay, I believe.
now I believe you.
I'm
You know what I mean?
900-0 in street fights. You're like,
Yeah.
no, I don't think we're gonna.
You
but
Jorge
mix
Masvidal, bro.
right? You mix that with tons of alcohol, and then being around fights, you're like just the way that you're feeling. Like, I want to go. I want to fight. Like,
Yeah.
I hate going to fights. I rarely, if I'm not cornering, I'm not going to fights to watch them.
That's how I feel. Unless I have like a media badge. Like I went to this last BKFC when Kamosi won the title there.
It was dope.
Which was fucking awesome, man. So stoked to see him win that. But unless I have a media badge, dude, I'm not sitting in the crowd. I can't anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and I was fine when I was in family and friends, but even then, like in the two sections outside of that, there's shit breaking out in those. It's like,
I know.
what
I tell
the
my family,
fuck?
like, they're like, do you want us to come to your fight? And I'm like, no. Because like in Denver, Denver, I don't remember much of this, but no contest, got hit in the back of the head. Everyone's pissed. Everyone's booing in the crowd. We're on the way out. We're getting cussed out. My coach is like getting into it with the crowd. My teammates, Dustin and Colin, are getting into it with the crowd. They're all like,
that was bullshit.
And then I
man.
have tons of family in the crowd and teammates who are all fighting, right? Because you're around a bunch of people like, that guy's a pussy or whatever, and your emotions are running hot. And I'm like, dude, thank God my like parents weren't there or my siblings.
Right.
Like, I don't even want them to go, not even go to the fights. I don't even want them to go to like a beat-ups to like watch the fights because no one knows who you are.
Well, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking crowd. It's and like as I have a plethora of alcohol sitting right here, you know, the moment that you get outside of that moderation lane, dude, there's a reason why they call it liquid courage. And
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've had a lot of dudes in that were like law enforcement this last month, and I'm trying to like shed a little bit of light on first responders and stuff like that. And they're like 90% of the calls that we go on that are bad, there's some sort of substance involved, and alcohol seems to be like one of the worst, man. It's just like people make
I mean, think about
decisions.
just yourself. Like, you're a good dude. I'm a good
yeah.
dude, but think about the worst decisions you've probably made in your life.
Oh, I've all been through that.
I'm sure that,
Yeah.
you're never in your right mind when you're making those decisions. So,
Yeah.
And then you mix that with people who maybe aren't good people already on top of that, and then you mix in alcohol. It's just not a good recipe, man. But
no, that liquid courage is
it's a whole different thing, man.
So yeah, I prefer I prefer to watch the fights. Like shout out to Dustin Jacoby, man. You were there cornering, dude. Like how badass was that fucking knockout, man?
I've cornered Dustin a lot of his fights. I've cornered a lot of people. I've had my own fights. I don't know if I've been happier for myself or for someone than in that moment, man. It was just kind of what he's gone through. He's 1-4 in his last 5 after having a huge winning streak. Some of those fights were super close. I thought he beat Khalil, who just fought for the title.
Agreed, yeah.
He got dropped a couple times, but he's like 30 seconds combined away from winning 3 out of those 4 fights, right? And then he gets put out by Dom, which if you know Dustin, like that kid never gets put out. He's got a straight up beard on him. That guy, his chin's unreal.
It's proven, man.
Yeah.
Just go back and watch some tape.
So he gets knocked out, and I know just being a fighter and being a good friend of his, like where his confidence was at. And if you know Dustin, that's one of his superpowers. I think he's like one of the most confident dudes I know, but it was definitely shaken. And you're getting older, and you're like, how much more can I do this? How many more fights do I have? And he's fighting this absolute monster, dude. This guy got in the cage. If you're walking in the cage sideways, there's a problem. You're gigantic, right? You can't even fit through the doors. Like this dude's huge. He's young. He's hungry. I'm like, man, this is kind of the deck stacked against us a little bit. And you know, Dustin just had a perfect performance. Everything we worked, and you know, knocked that one of the best knockouts of the year, if not the best knockout of the year.
Dude, just the patience for it,
which is not Dustin.
Yeah, I know. Like that's. I was so excited because of course, it's a nail biter for those first 2 rounds. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, fuck, man, I hate seeing my friends lose. You know, it's one thing, it's like, if you're just watching a fight, you don't know the 2 fighters, but like, I feel like there's some sort of investment. Like when you fight or like watching you go through what you went through in Denver, you know, and all that, I was just like, fuck, man, this like kind of ruins my night. Like I don't even want to see anybody else fight. I don't want to fight myself. That's what happened that night. But yeah, so like it's the exact opposite when you have a win like that, or like when I was in Austin to watch you, you know, with that slam.
A sick one, yeah.
That was fucking badass. That was super cool. I think shortly after that you came in here, right?
Yeah, that was my first time on. Yeah, it was. Those moments they make it all worth it. You know, you're like, I think this fighting thing is tough. Always wins, losses, whatever, but when you're losing a lot, it's really tough, and you're like, man, I'm over this, right? So then you get a win like that, and it kind of flips the script. I think, too, I always tell people, like, when I meet them, and, like, they come over to my house, or we get to be friends, I'm like, hey, well, unfortunately, I just ruined you watching my fights, because you're not going to really enjoy them anymore. You're going to be on edge.
True, man.
The whole day, you're going to have anxiety.
It's like the emotion roller coaster, you know?
It's different when you know the people, for
and sure. I know I'm not nearly as invested as you guys are in it, so it's like, I can only imagine the weight of that becomes so much more when you're in the gym and you're on the mat with these guys on pretty much a daily basis, man. Like it never stops, right?
Yeah, you see the highest highs for sure. No worries.
Amateur hour, fucking 200 episodes, my ass.
You see that, you know, you definitely go through the best of the best and the worst of the worst, and you see people struggle. You know, Dustin ripped his toe off 3 weeks before that fight, and when I say ripped off, it was ripped off. The bone's sticking out, like. He sent us pictures, and I was like, I looked at Coach because we were on a trip with Yusuf Zalal. We were in Canada with him.
Okay. Shout out, dude.
So, yeah, so it's Dustin's last sparring session, and he sends me and Coach this picture of his toe ripped off.
He did it in sparring.
And I'm like, and the fight's 3 weeks away. I'm like, he's not fighting. There's no way. Like, he's not even going to be walking. He's going to be in a boot. Somehow, dude makes it to the fight and then has a performance like that, but
damn.
No one knows all the behind the scenes of whatever.
Right.
And, you know, the funniest thing is, so Dustin finally came out after the fight and was like, yeah, you know, I ripped my toe off.
So how the fuck? I mean, you had to have seen it when you
was
before
dislocated.
Going
and so then.
What'd you do? Just tape the fuck out of it?
He smacked it back in. And then they sewed it up. He took a week off. And then, yeah, we just taped the fuck out of it. And they were like, take tape off. We had to retape it like 6 times.
That's the craziest
thing. Take the tape
thing.
off.
Yeah.
And finally, Coach was like, listen, if John Jones was here, you'd let John Jones tape his toe. Just because it's Dustin Jacoby, let him tape his toe, right? Like, fuck, they're going to go fight. This 3 inches of tape isn't going to be the difference between a knockout or not.
Well, it's so crazy, too, to stand there like the way that he did for 3 rounds with that. I mean, I don't think people realize how much, like, dexterity comes into your feet, especially when it comes to punching power and, pivot and just
I didn't think
everything.
I thought there was no way we were getting to the fight. So he gets to the fight and knocks this absolute killer out. I mean, and when you have big guys fighting, too, it's like every collision, you're like, it's like a car crash. You're like, oh shit, somebody's gonna get knocked out, right? And like, yeah, I was just super proud of him. You know, the crowd's booing, and for Dustin, he's very much like, I'm gonna be a crowd pleaser.
He is a crowd pleaser 100%.
So when they're booing him, he's like, I gotta go. And we're like, no, just wait. And I remember like in between the second and third round.
Not to mention like you're taking a beating while you're waiting, dude. Like
it can get super, but the guy he was fighting was super frustrated. You saw him kept putting his hands up like, come on, fight me.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to, bitch, just wait. Right. But coach in between second and third round is like, all these motherfuckers are booing. Just give them 2 minutes. They're going to be screaming. I was like, all right, man, I hope so. I hope so. Sure enough, knocks him out.
Yeah,
man.
it truly is a chess match, man, is what I found out. Like, and so many fighters sitting across from me, it's like, there's some real strategy to it, man. Especially when it comes to opponents and at the level that you're playing at, man. It's a little bit dancing with the devil, man.
Yeah, I think, and it's like, who can make the adjustment in the moment, right? And who can't. And that's sometimes like, I think that's Coach Mark's like superpower. When you're in there, he just sees it. And then the biggest piece for me or for anybody on our team, and probably the biggest piece I've struggled with, is just like, you just got to believe it, man. And I believe in Coach and whatever, but just when you're in the moment, you're like, this seems like I'm going to put myself in danger. And so everything in your body's like, don't do that. But you just have to trust, like, hey, they said it's there, so it's got to be there.
Well, it's generations of primal instincts, right? Like, like humans do one of four things when shit's really going down, and you're not meant to put yourself into it voluntarily, really.
Well, look in the wild, man. You don't see, like, animals aren't fighting each other on the daily.
No.
Right? Like, you don't see two lions fighting each other every day. They do it few and far between because they're like, I might win this shit, but I'm gonna get fucked up. You know?
And then if you get hurt, there's no medical recovery. Right. You're done, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
So you have the craziest thoughts. I like every fight. Before I fight, I'm warming up backstage, getting my gloves on. I'm like, I'm gonna tell Coach I'm done after this. I'm like, I don't care if I win, I don't care if I lose. I'm done after this, dude, because I don't want to feel like this anymore. And then you win, and you're like, man, I was being such a bitch before this.
What is that roller coaster like, man? Because I don't know if that I could handle it, dude. I don't even think that I could make it to the octagon
you
door.
You say
it's
that,
like,
dude, but it's crazy.
It's kind of like,
what I say makes no sense. Like, it's the worst thing ever, but it's something that you're chasing always. So like, I don't know, because I'm not just chasing a win because I've lost and I'm immediately like, man, I'm gonna get back in there, right? So it's like all of those negative feelings. There's a lot of positive feelings, but all the negative feelings, positive feelings, all of it, I've never found them anywhere else, right? And you're chasing that feeling always of like, and you know, Coach is always like, well, you're just living, and you know, it sounds corny, but I think that's what it is, man. It makes you feel alive, and you're like, I feel like shit, I feel great, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no easy way to go hunt that thing down, you know? And so
I can understand that, because I think I brought it up in here the other day, because we just recorded our 200th episode, which is fucking amazing to me, because I never thought we'd make it to 50, you know? Like
200, congrats, bro.
200 is crazy, like... Nervous wreck. Shout out to Mark Montoya. Invited him on at like episode 4 and just like totally butchered the whole conversation. I think he had a good time.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
But we've come a long way since then, or I've come a long ways. But it's funny now because I've had so many amazing conversations, and this is like a little time capsule. Like, you come in here, like time kind of disappears. Distractions, if your phone doesn't ring, you know, if you put your phone on silent, like. You don't have these conversations anywhere else in the world, whether you're in an airport or anything. I mean, maybe if you got stuck in an elevator, you might get to know somebody like on a individual level, but then who are you stuck in the elevator with? Right, and that's a lotto roll right there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like, to have absolute savages, and when I say savages, I mean in the best absolute possible way, sit across from me like Jeremiah or Graham Dunn or Dustin Jacoby or Mark Montoya or Cody Brundage or Yusuf Zalal or, you know, Josh Friend, any of those guys, you have just these incredible conversations. You guys kind of all I compare operators to fighters a lot, because you guys have a lot of the same mannerisms. Like, you've seen so much. You've seen what like true evil is, or true, you know, the operators have seen true evil. Mm-hmm. Fighters have seen, the true test of like manhood. I think it's the closest thing that we have to modern day gladiators.
Well, it's this
right
thing.
now,
I think both of them. I think the big similarity between operators, military, police, fighters is that every day they always say, like, the best quote. One of the best quotes I've heard is that you can't be courageous unless you have fear. Right? There has to be fear to be courageous.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I think every day you're facing fear, and I think willingly facing that fear helps forge good, strong people. In general. Because no one wants to do that, really.
The biggest moves I've ever made in my life, I've been scared of,
Yeah, because it's not easy.
No, it sucks.
And that's why those people, like my best friends in this world, are people I've gone through that with, because I know who you are when you're facing that fear. It's easy to be like a great person and supportive and my homie when you're not
when
going
the
through
shit goes down, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to know I can trust you in that moment, right? And I know all my like close friends, I'm like, I've been through the biggest fears that we have. I've been through that with all of them. So
that's so true, man.
And I think that's the thing that's the thing I love about fighting. There's not many other situations in my life other than, it's different, I guess, like with my daughter and her disabilities and things like that. There's definitely fear there, but there's nothing I can do other than face it, but there's nothing I can do to like
you
fight
can't
that
go out
fear.
and punch somebody in the face to make it better.
I can go, like, I feel like I overcome my fear with fighting. My daughter, that fear is going to be there no matter what. And I think that's any parent.
Yeah, but I think the two kind of relate because you can take lessons that you've learned in fighting to walk through a battle. Like I vividly remember you saying when you and Amanda were sitting down with the doctors right out of the gate, and I don't mean to bring up your personal stuff, so it's like, but you're like, look, we've both fought in MMA for so many years. We never thought that we would do it professionally, and we both have. Like, give us a punch list. Let us know what we need to do to get to the point where we can help.
Yeah, 100%.
With the situation. Like, don't tell me we can't do something.
Yeah, just give me a way or give me a list of, like, try to achieve this. And then if I don't achieve it, that's okay. I'm not going to be like, you told me I could achieve this, right?
Right.
Like, that's one thing that, like, with a whole different topic, but, like, with doctors and medicine in general, I feel like we miss the mark sometimes, that it's like such a pessimistic diagnosis always. There's never like, hey man, this sucks, but there's another side of this. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Because they can't give you the light at the end of the tunnel, because then they're like, well, now we're liable. And it's like, you're dealing with people, and I'm not just talking about my situation. I'm talking about people with cancer, people with whatever. It's always death and gloom, and this is the worst case scenario, and never like, well, here are some positives that can happen. And I think it's because they're like, well, we don't want you to get so excited about the positives and then it not work out. I'm like, well, I'd rather
worst case scenario mentality, that's not good for you mentally when you're going through like one of the biggest fights in your life. And it's almost like you have to be proactive nowadays, like myself included, where you just don't fall into the cattle herd mix or with all the other sheep.
Yeah.
You have to kind of be like looking outside of it and like taking inspiration from podcasts, whether it's Andrew Huberman or whatever. Like, why do we, if I want to take stem cells, if it's something that I want to put in my body,
right?
Why the fuck do I have to go to Mexico to do it? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so crazy. It's so crazy.
Wild, yeah.
And like what I wanted to do diet wise a few years ago, I was like, I need to do this with help because I don't want to fucking fuck up something with my heart and kill myself, right? So like I need some medical guidance, but I had to go like seek that out and pay for it.
And you got to find
own pocket.
and you probably had to go like second, third, fourth opinions. And like if you're not, the biggest thing I learned with my daughter, because I never thought about it myself. My parents are in the medical field. My stepdad, my uncle, like everyone in my family's in the medical field. My sister's a PA, so I'm like, if the doctor tells you to do something, do it. And I don't, I still think that's true most of the time, but I'm like, you really have to be your own advocate. And you have to be, especially when you have kids, you have to be your kid's advocate. I'll never forget when my daughter, she was having like 150 seizures a day at one point. And they were like, okay, we're going to do keto. Okay. And because a lot of it's how they process carbs for her mutation. They're like, we're going to do keto. And if keto works, that'd be great. And I was like, okay, cool. And it's not like keto like me or you would do. It's a whole thing. We had to go to the hospital for like a week where they like run all these tests and make sure she's able and give you like classes basically on what she would do. So it was a whole thing. But to me, I was like, okay, keto's great. And they're like, well, if keto doesn't work, we're thinking maybe we'll do brain surgery. And at this point, she's 8 months old. I'm like, I was like, wait a second. I was like, hold on. It's like, we're going from keto diet to brain surgery. I'm like, I feel like we skipped 3 or 4 steps in the middle here. I'm like, we're not doing brain surgery on my 8-month-old daughter. Like, this is insane. And
but it's crazy. Like, if you just fall into line, they'll do it.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work,
it doesn't work.
Okay.
Yeah. So I agree, man. Like, you have to be an advocate. And if you're not educating yourself, I'm not saying you have to be.
You have to be proactive
educated
in finding other people's experiences and rolling with that, right?
Like find someone you trust and be like, okay, hey, what are your opinions on this? Like someone that you believe is educated. What are your opinions on this? And then if you can't find someone that you trust, find someone that you trust and then ask him, well, who do you trust when it comes to this?
Exactly.
Right. And that goes with a lot of things. Like I was never big into like, okay, finances or anything like that. And then I started making real money for the first time in my life fighting. And I was like almost overwhelmed to the point where I was like not doing anything with the money.
Everybody wants a piece of it too.
I was like, what do I do with this money? And so I didn't know who to go to, but I went to Coach and was like, Coach, who do you use? Like, who would you put me in touch with? And then it just so happened like Josh Cavan, who's actually one of the reasons I ended up in Denver.
Oh,
That's
really?
A funny story. So when I came the first time to train at Factory X, I was here with Bobby, my wife. She was fighting at the Pepsi Center for the UFC. And me and Josh trained together, and he just whooped my ass for a whole week. But then when I was looking for a new gym, we had stayed in contact, and I was like, hey, man, I'm thinking about coming out to Denver. He's like, I think it'd be a great decision. So moved out here, and now he manages all my finances too. So
badass.
Yeah. So, but I'm just saying you have to find, okay, I don't have any expertise in this area. I don't have anyone that has expertise. You have someone in your life who you trust to have someone else.
Yeah, man. I think also swallowing your pride a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
And going outside of that and being like, fuck, I don't know anything about this. Like it's hard to call somebody and ask for help, especially like when it comes to finance. Because as men,
well, anything.
This goes back to that, that generations of like gladiators and fighting and natural instincts is like you want to do it yourself. That's why guys don't ask for directions when they're lost.
Yeah, right?
You know what I mean? I know where the fuck I'm going. Like
I'm taking the scenic route.
Yeah. Trust me, it's right over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's I think that there's like getting outside of your comfort level, man. Like piggybacking off of other people's experiences. Like I've done it with the podcast, and that's why we're at where I'm at today, is because reaching out to people and taking mentors. And then also I had a real thing at the beginning, like kind of like imposter syndrome, I guess, a little bit, but more like fearful, like we have to be different than everybody else. But when there's hundreds of people doing it, like
when you started, it's all right. Like everyone's trying to do it.
Yeah. So it's okay to, I wouldn't call it stealing, but it's okay to take cues from other people, see how other people do stuff.
I mean, that's
mentorship.
Right? If I see somebody do a really good job in a fight, I'm like, man, I might, or have like a crazy technique that's super effective. I'm not going to be like, well, that's his technique, I'm not doing it. I'm like, all right, I'm trying to learn that shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've seen it with leg kicks in the UFC, right? Like that was never a thing up until 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now, like, that's a Factory X staple. It's just like, that's something that you guys know. If you're going against a Factory X guy, you're probably going to have a fucking sore calf afterwards.
Yeah, it's not going to feel great.
Let's go. Fucking kick the shit out of those legs, bro.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, though. Like, so kind of to take it back to, like, that experience, what I was talking about with, like, conversation, like, locking yourself in a room, like, I could see where you guys have that same sort of feeling because, like, I find myself like in a normal conversation now, I get bored, you know, when it's somebody like telling me about like something, and this is no disrespect, but it's just like they're telling you a story and you're like, they're looking for you to like be impressed.
Get to the point.
And when you get there, it's like, that's the story. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I've just had so many people with so much life experience sit across from me.
I think that's the key.
I
to
think
life,
that's
man.
like leaving fighting is going to be hard, bro.
Oh yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah,
I think it was so interesting, man. When I grew up, was we literally called where I grew up the bubble in South Carolina, a small town. It was like 98% white, middle class, like Bible Belt Christian.
Okay,
like. it was a small town. It had maybe
So not Charleston then.
No.
Fucking
So
love
it was
that
like
place.
yeah, Charleston's dope. But so it was like when I was going up there, it was maybe like 2 or 3 stoplights. Now it's much bigger, but there's 2 or 3 stoplights, and there were $4 or $5 million churches. Like there were more mega churches than there were stoplights where I was from, and I just remember, and I say the bubble, and people will take that like, oh, he's saying negatively. Like it was great, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was a great upbringing. I never had to worry about really anything, right? And then I got out of there. And from years 18 to 30 now, my life is so different. It's like 2 different people. And the kid that grew up to 18 years old didn't even know half the shit was out there that now I'm like, I have good friends that are millionaires. I have good friends that served life for murder. Now they're out. Like when they went into jail, they didn't even have smartphones. And when they got out, I was trying to explain to them what a smartphone was. Like, but all those people's experiences, life experiences, all mean something and like have helped me be better as a person and be like, okay, I feel like I'm a well-rounded person now. Where at 18 years old, I was not well-rounded at all.
No,
I didn't really
totally get that.
anything.
It comes with age. I think that's the biggest thing that I take out of podcasting, honestly.
Well, you get
is
to
like
live
having
through other people's eyes, kind of.
Yeah. And their experiences, and like Coach Mark Montoya has changed my mind on the way I think about certain things. Like, man, I'll tell you what, him going through cancer, like I'm not a very religious guy at all or anything, but when you start hearing these stories over and over again, that people that have been in war zones or battled cancer, like, you know, just any sort of experience, and they relate it back to God and give like God credit, and like, I don't know where I lie with that now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think being open-minded to changing your perspective too is a huge, huge thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a guy to go sit in church every Sunday, but do I think that there's something more there now after having so many conversations and like people going through the craziest times in their lives?
Me and Coach were just talking about church
Really?
this week, and I've been on and off again, man. I grew up, like I said, pretty religious, and then was kind of like away from it for a bit, and then everything happened with my daughter, and I remember like, man, I don't want to like, I'm not going to chalk it up like God help me out here, because it felt weird. It felt like almost like you haven't been there like being grateful or thankful. Why are you asking for shit now? You know what I mean?
Right.
Which was a weird place for me, and then
I'll never forget Jelly Roll song,
it's just
man.
Weird, man.
You know what I'm talking
about?
I forget how it goes. It's something like, I only talk to God when I need a favor.
Yeah.
You know, like that's so
And that's how I felt. And I was like, man, that's not right. And then I talked to Coach, and he's like, listen, I don't care what you do, who you believe in, but the other thing about men is like, we're fixers. If you bring me a problem and I can't fix it, I struggle a ton. This was a problem I couldn't fix.
Yeah.
And he's like, you got to just chalk it up to someone else, man, and be like, you're going to take care of me. I just have this faith that you're going to, and it'll be easier on you in your life. And I was like, okay. And I took his advice, and you know, I haven't been to church every Sunday, probably not as much as I should be, but I've been more. And
I don't know that that's the answer. Like religious people are going to fucking eat me alive right now, but I don't know that that's the answer. I think that it's a way to practice. Like they call it practicing religion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of like going to the gym. I think you're sharpening your skills and facing some things through other people's experiences and stuff, but I don't think you have to go to church every week to have faith.
Yeah.
Why would you?
I think one of the cool things about church, like if you just break it down, even if you're not a religious person, right? I think we all need good people, right? Or people that are trying to be better. And I feel like church is a place where the majority of people there want to be better people. That's why they're going. Right?
Yeah.
And I think also, so you have a group of people that want to be better people. And then on top of that, you have a good message about how to live your life. Even if you're not religious,
positive
that's a pretty
influence,
good thing.
Dude. It's just positive influence.
It's a pretty good thing, even if you're not religious, to go maybe have that for an hour a week of like, I need positivity and like, how can I try to be a better person?
Well, people just naturally find negativity in their life, myself included, where unless you're conscious of it and you can catch yourself, it's so much easier to complain than to try to tell.
We'll even just look at this social media era. Like, how often are you going to look at the positive comments that you have and be like, man, this is really cool that these guys are being so positive. And how often are you going to look at the negative and be like, man, fuck this dude, right? Like, I do the same shit, so I know.
Yeah.
And the thing that, like, I've struggled with that a lot, like with the fan base and with the negativity, and, you know, it kind of really soured me to fighting a little bit, even though it had nothing to do with fighting. But I just kind of realized, man, I'm not gonna prove anyone. If you don't know me and you're like, man, fuck that guy, I'm not gonna prove you wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put my energy into proving you wrong because you don't know me. Like the people that know me now, if you're someone who knows me and you're my boy and you're like, man, fuck you, I'm like, okay, what'd I do? Let me try to fix this. If you don't know me, well, I'm gonna waste the time trying to change your opinion on me because it doesn't matter.
That's the thing too. It's not a true human reaction. I've talked about this so many times, but those people would not say that sitting across from each other, like 3 feet apart, right?
Right.
They would not say the shit. I mean, it's totally disrespectful. Like,
but it's the craziest thing. Like sometimes I'll go like back, right? Somebody will be like, man, you suck, you bum. And then I'll comment, I'll be like, my bad, man. Like try to like, I'll be nice. I won't even be like, fuck you. And they're like, oh, dude, my bad. I was just pussy. And I'm like, and like without fail,
I was drunk
100% of the time.
Yeah.
They then want to have a civil conversation.
Really?
I'm not kidding. Never once have they been like, no, fuck you.
So maybe it's an attention.
They want like
getter,
validation, right? Yeah. So it's like, and I only do it because I'm like, watch this. This person's gonna.
You know what's been cool about this is I've never paid for. I've had a lot of opportunities to pay for a fan base, whether it was like through advertisement on other podcasts or like, because I get all these crazy people that reach out to us. They see our success, they see and that's solely built on my guest list. Like they look at the guest list and they're like, dude, everybody is a fucking badass, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, or a savage or whatever you want to call it. So they see that and they're like, how can I capitalize on this, right? Like, so they reach out and they're like, we can get you X amount of followers. Let us do this bit of advertisement on so-and-so's podcast or like in front of theirs, or we'll put you in the Spotify playlist. And like, I've just kind of said no to it because I want it to be, and I want to fucking pay for it. I don't think I should have to.
Right.
And I want it to be organic.
Yeah.
So what I've found in that, it's been the best defense ever for me, because when somebody jumps online and starts giving me shit, oh my God, dude, look out. Because I got a little fan base that'll just turn around and fucking eat them alive, bro.
Right. Because you built it for real.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like, I mean, it's not like just like this, but it's like you see accounts on like social media now and you're like, you have 100,000 followers and you get one comment
those
on
are
every video. Like, this isn't a real thing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's bought and paid.
But that's the world we live in, where like our validation comes from how many followers do I have? How many likes? Who's caring about what I'm doing? And it's really a sad place to be. Speaking from experience, because I've been there, I'm like, damn, all these people hate me, right? And you're like, well, they're not real people. Like, they're not people. Not like, they just don't matter in my life. And like the break was big for me to just kind of like, I think fighting a ton was good. Physically, I feel like I grew a lot, got a lot better. But you can't grow mentally when you're fighting like I was fighting, because you're just like, I got to lock in.
Coming off a concussion, bro.
Come on, multiple. So like concussion. And then you're like, okay, I got to focus in on this fight. And for the last 4 months, it's like, I got to focus in on being a dad. I got to focus in on being a coach and,
that's
and
the most
giving to other people,
man,
being a husband, like
father,
family. I'm like,
that's who's going to be there when
and then
you're
like,
done.
dude, it doesn't matter what these nerds are saying to me, bro. They don't know me. They don't know anything about me. And so I think that was big for me to just like, I don't need validation from these people. I need validation from about 4 people in my life. My 2 daughters, my wife, and then like maybe my mom. Like if she's pissed at me, I'm like, other than that, I'm not. I know myself. Like I know I'm not a piece of shit. So I'm like, you're not going to convince me I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah, right? Exactly, man. So, like it's that whole keyboard warrior thing. It's like it's so much easier to throw shade at somebody.
Oh, even
if you're
Dustin.
a million miles
So the craziest
away.
thing was Dustin knocked this dude out, and he comes out after fight. He's like, broke my toe. It was out of the bone. And some guy I was reading was like, you didn't actually break your toe, because if you actually broke it, I'm like, dude, whatever, bro. You can't please anyone.
Right.
Like, there's always going to be a naysayer. There's always going to be a critic.
Oh, yeah. We get it all the time on here. It's like, or you get that armchair quarterback, like, well, you should have done this, or why didn't you ask this question? Like,
oh, yeah.
I'm sure you guys get
I saw a hilarious
all
video the other
right?
day. It was like, this is
I would have thrown a right hook right there.
He's like talking to his wife about the college football playoff, right? He's like, it's a comedian, but I'll have to find the video and send it to you. But he was basically like talking shit. He's like, oh, this quarterback's terrible. And his wife's like, well, he's only 20 years old. Maybe like chill out, cut him some slack. He's like, no, he's horrible. We should get rid of him. We need another quarterback. She's like, didn't you have a panic attack at work on Monday? He's like, dude, these are the guys that are in my DMs telling me I suck, right? Like
100%. Yeah, it's so crazy. Dude, do you want something to drink? I didn't even offer you. started rolling here.
I'm good with all water.
You want to give me some caffeine? See if we have any
Pump up
energy
the
drinks
jam.
in there. Let's go. You want something?
Yeah, I'll grab some caffeine too. There we go. Looks good.
Little Jocko go.
You need one too?
Yeah, I'll take one. Or is there different flavors?
You got a red one.
Okay. So this one is vanilla cherry, or that one's blue raspberry.
Whatever.
Dealer's choice, dude.
I'll just take this one.
All right, cool.
Old Jocko. I got a little beef with Jocko.
Yeah?
Not really. Not really. When
Is he talking shit?
No, he wasn't talking shit. But when I fought Bo, we were all backstage about to do the weigh-in, and it was like Jocko, Chris Pratt, Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Who's the other one? He runs. He's a big bow hunter. Haynes.
Oh, Cameron Haynes? Yeah.
Cameron Haynes, and they're all sitting there talking to Bo. I felt like the loser kid, like sitting at the outside the lunch table.
He's
Like, I'm a
such
cool guy too, man.
I guarantee you those guys would love to talk to you, man. And that's Jocko's cool. They've been a good company to me.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're going to be with us this year, but I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a crazy fight, dude.
Yeah.
Bo. Yeah.
Yeah, that
was pretty nuts.
Dude, 300 was just nuts in general, but yeah, that I want to see it run back.
Yeah.
Honestly.
One day we'll run it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting fight, man. Because I grew up I'm in the wrestling scene. That was me my whole life, and so Bo was like superhero, and we were kind of in school at the same time. And
Did you ever wrestle against him or spar against him?
Never
or
wrestled
anything prior
against
to
him.
this?
Never sparred him.
He's one of those guys, like, in my opinion, just looking at it from an outside perspective, there's people that are put on a pedestal in the UFC, and I don't always agree with it. And I think that he's one of those guys.
Man. He brings I get it because he brings a big set of eyes. Like a lot of wrestling fans watch MMA already, but the ones that aren't are watching it now because of him. And I honestly feel bad for the kid because he's never gonna. He kind of set himself up to be hated because he came out so hot. Like, I'll beat everyone. I'll beat all the champs. I'm the man. And he's not that level. So he's saying all that, and people were like, fuck this guy, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, his fight against me, like, he beat me pretty good. I don't have a crazy ego, so I can say, yeah, he beat me pretty good. And people were like, can't believe that was such a tough fight for him. I'm like, well, it wasn't that tough. Like, no matter what that kid does.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me, dude?
I'm like, no matter what that kid does, he's not going to get the credit.
It's funny. The true people that are commenting aren't even like real fans. Well, that's not true. The commentators piss me off sometimes, dude.
Oh, dude.
Sometimes.
Don't get me started.
Yeah.
I feel like not even just
I've
the
gotten into it
commentators,
with
like
a few of
the commentators, the like really famous media members. Mm-hmm. I feel like they have an obligation and a responsibility. They are the experts, quote unquote, right? People view them as the experts. So if you're the experts, you have to have expert opinion. You can't just say stupid shit. Mm-hmm. Like my fight in Denver, I went back and watched it. Dominic Cruz is on there like, he just has to decide if he wants to fight or not. I'm like, well, you're a fighter. You know it's not that easy. I'm concussed. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, right? And he's like, oh, if he just decides yes or no. So then people are watching it like, this pussy, all he's got to do is just decide. Dominic Cruz said, and he's a UFC champion, right?
Well, listen, unless you've had a concussion, and speaking from a guy that's had multiple,
yeah, it's like not good. Man.
It doesn't. No, it's horrible, man. And you don't honestly know what's going on.
Well, so that one, I think it was
that
one was pretty bad because it was. I think I had multiple, and I think I just never really addressed them. And then that one was really bad. And then I was waking up, like for weeks afterwards. I'd just wake up and like crying, like bawling, for no reason. But I was like, my wife would be super concerned. She's like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, "I have no idea."
Well, dude, I mean,
the brain.
Not to make it doom and gloom, but there's a ton of pro football players that have committed suicide over it, like because, like, and it's the hardest. So my son went through one this year with football, and it was bad, dude.
Yeah,
like the worst I've ever seen. He's a super smart kid, like smart on a book level to where he's like in all these fucking GT programs in school, and like they're trying to send him. They want to do advance this and advance that. And I'm just kind of like, whoa, pump the brakes a little bit,
let
dude.
Him be a kid.
He's not going to the CIA, so like, but he loves to play football. So like, it was kind of one of those things when he came to me, he was like, "Dad, I want to play football." I was like, "Motherfucker, dude," because like he's super into
now,
like playing
right?
chess, and he's playing like people that are, so he's playing in the bracket where it's not even playing people his age really, unless they're the same caliber. Like he's nationally rated and has been
sick.
like to all this crazy stuff.
Stop playing football.
He's won fucking money and like all this sort of stuff.
Stop
but like,
football immediately.
he wants to be an NFL coach is like his ultimate goal, right? It was like that's
pretty
smart.
dope,
He's like,
yeah.
Dad, I can't be a coach if I've never played. You know what I mean?
Right,
So I get it. Like he's all about like the strategy of football. So he's like super excelled, made this killer team, but every kid, there was so much depth on the team, dude. Every kid was just like
Really good.
and everybody that they played. I mean, we were playing against like Emmanuel Sanders' son's team and
Oh, wow.
Terrell Davis's son's team, like well coached
The best
players,
teams, yeah.
dude, and like the caliber of players too. So he got his first real concussion this year, and it was crazy. It wasn't even like a super hard hit or anything. Like it can kind of come out of nowhere. But just knowing him and watching him and his level of cognitive function,
You could see the difference.
just total difference. Yeah, it's wild.
I think like when I told my mom I was going to fight again after this last concussion, I think like she was really upset, like crying upset. And she's like, I thought you were done with this. I'm like, well, thought I was too, but it's something I want to do. And
Yeah.
but it's because you see the difference for sure. And I feel the difference sometimes. Just with like how quickly sometimes I can get like what is in my brain out of my mouth. Like I know what I'm trying
how I
to say,
feel all the
but right. But I've never felt that. And to
Yeah.
be honest, like the crazy thing is, before I started fighting, I got recruited to play college football. I wrestled my whole life, and I had never had concussions. I mean, maybe little, but never enough that it like put me out or never that way. My sister played college soccer. She had way more concussions than I did.
That's
Like
crazy.
she had tons of concussions.
When we took my son into the doctor and they were doing that, they're like, yeah, soccer's the number one.
yeah, she had.
Because there's no head protection. You're like jumping up for the ball and like
It's not
it's
good, yeah.
collisions.
And she had a ton. And then all through college, never really had one. Even when I first started fighting, never really had one. And then as I got in the UFC, they just started to kind of pile up. And it was like, well, I'm just going to keep fighting. Because the only way I knew how to like get out from under a loss or like a bad spell was like just outwork it and then go get a win. You'll feel good. But that's not a great plan if you have concussions, right? Like give yourself
Yeah.
some time. And
It's crazy. There's people doing DNA tests now to see if you're more susceptible
I've seen
to
that.
it.
I've
Like
seen
it's
that.
kind of crazy. I mean, it's wild that it comes down to genealogy, but it kind of makes sense too.
everything kind of, yeah.
Man, yeah, one of the coolest things about my son getting his concussion is what I learned from this year, because we had such a high level of coaching and stuff that had dealt with it at the college and the professional level, that they were like, you should look into this thing called a Q collar. And I don't think you
I
could
think
wear
I've
it
seen
for
them.
the UFC, but you look
I
on
see
any
all the
NFL players.
Yeah.
So is this your carotid arteries, right? In the neck? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what you put people to sleep with, right? So the concept is you get fitted for this thing, and they come in like a multitude of different sizes. And then obviously if you're a kid, you're going to outgrow it. So it's like, and they're not that expensive. I think it was like $200 or $300 or something.
Oh, wow, that's not
right?
crazy.
Yeah. And that was with like the cover and everything, but it just pinches your carotids enough to know, like that feeling when you first start getting choked in jiu-jitsu and stuff, like you kind of have to get used to it. And then, but they're playing with it. And what it does is it promotes more blood flow to the brain because you're pinching those, and it also retains blood.
Okay.
Because as an athlete, I guess once you start exploding or sprinting or doing like
starts
anything
to
like
cut
that,
the blood
they're
off.
like, fuck, we don't need as much in the brain. We need more in the legs, or like, we need more in the feet or whatever to make it move faster or whatever.
I've always wondered what the science behind that is.
Because
That
you only
makes a
have
ton
so
of
much
sense.
blood in your body. So they're like, staying hydrated is like number one.
Well, that's
right?
why the weight cuts are so dangerous. People think the weight cut's dangerous because of the, like, oh, he's losing.
That's
a
what
bunch
I
of
was
weight.
going to ask
It's
you
more
guys.
because
It's
like you can get knocked
fucking crazy, dude.
because all you're pulling fluid from your brain to cut weight.
Everywhere, yeah.
So it's not great.
Yeah. And the craziest thing is like them taking away IVs from you guys to try to get back, man.
I
Like
don't really get it. Yeah,
I don't understand why
they're
that.
like, oh, we'll curb weight cutting doing this. I'm like, well, they just make it less safe. There's never
Yeah.
going to be a way to really curb the weight cutting. Like even
unless
one,
you eliminate it altogether,
yeah.
right?
Well, even
But even that's gonna
unless you do like, hey, you have to weigh in and then step in the cage.
right.
So like, hey, as you make your walk, you get to the table, you step on the scale, you're 205, whatever. Your opponent has to be 205.
Then what happens if you don't make weight at that point?
And then there's fight scrap.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I think there should be
It's
way
crazy
tougher
because you got to do it for
cutting
TV,
weight.
man.
Yeah.
Like, that's
They won't do that though, because and the thing is, like, they don't care really about the weight cutting. Because if they did, if someone missed weight,
No, it's
and I
not
said
their
no to the
fucking
fight,
problem, dude.
If someone misses weight and I'm like, no, I don't want to fight him, they're like, you're a piece of shit for not fighting him.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, that guy's a piece of shit for missing weight, right? Like, that's the stigma kind of in MMA, and I don't know. So the idea, like, I know everyone's like, we gotta get rid of this. They're not gonna get rid of it. One does rehydration test. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't, man. Like, that's the craziest thing to me is that you guys got to cut weight and then be expected to go in and perform, within 24. It's less than 24 hours, right?
It's like about 16 hours. It's about 24.
Okay.
24 or 36, depending where you're at.
Because when you guys walk on stage and do the actual weight, that's not the actual
real
weight
anymore. That used to be, though. It used to be that was the real
right.
weight.
Now, that would cut that window down drastically.
Yeah,
bro.
12 hours. Wow. Yeah. So now it's you weigh in the morning, and then if you have ceremonials, you go do that at night, but rehydrated and everything. God, yeah.
That's probably got to be one of the hardest things about it, I would think.
Well, I don't cut that much.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, man, you could make 170, and they're probably not wrong. Like, physically, I could do it, but I just don't see the benefit. I think, like, when you're fighting the best people in the world, it doesn't matter what weight you're fighting tough people. So it's like, oh, yeah, I'll go to 170 and fight some killers.
Well, that's
down there.
kind of the thing, too, about, like, guys just kind of skate around the divisions and, like, I don't know. It's
I
crazy.
think maybe
it's a game,
you
man.
could make it, like, smaller in between so people don't feel like they have to cut as drastically, right? Like, you could do 55, 65, which they've talked about forever, and then just go up by 10. So you'd have 65, 75, 85, 95, 205, and then do like
just more weight classes.
You could do like a 225, like cruiserweight, and then do unlimited heavyweight. Unlimited heavyweight, that would
it
be
gives you more
legit.
fight opportunities, honestly, because then you need a bigger roster, right?
Yeah, but that's more money, so I don't know if they want
Yeah.
to do that or. I mean, it seems like they're not hurting for money.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, I don't know, but
Especially now,
like
man. It's like I'm honestly having a little bit of withdrawal. Just this little like 3-week like. There's like Saturday nights. That's what I do, dude.
Well, so
It's
that's like I always see this argument about like who's number 2, right? UFC's number 1, who's number 2, and like it's not the talent that divides them.
No.
Right? Even I think the UFC has way more talent, but that's not what's dividing the people from blowing up. It's like you can't tell me when the last PFL event was. You can't tell me when the next one is. You can't tell me when the last one event was. You can't tell me when the next one is. Everyone knows exactly when the UFC is on, how long they're out for, who's the next event. Like their marketing and like, let me put this in your face is so good that
It's incredible.
And then when they actually do their broadcast, it's so much better than the other options.
Dude, it is the best because I know from a firsthand all my experience in doing major sporting events at the highest level, who the UFC is hired and who is working and directing the actual
Like
show.
their production and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
the production is the best in the world.
Well, that's
They're
why no one
using
will
the
get
best in the world.
close. No one will be close because it's not a talent thing. Because listen, people don't give a shit about your talent level. They really don't. That's why every local show is sold the fuck out because they want to see blood and fighting, and we just love watching fighting as people. We just
There's not too many people like myself included being one of these, even though I know so many people that compete in it. I couldn't sit there and break down like Jordan.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jordan, dude.
Jordan's a memory bank. He has everything.
Man.
Every
like
fight,
you
every
literally
day.
have to nerd out. You have to religiously watch it. It becomes almost like a religion at that point.
But you're like the majority of people who just want to watch fighting.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of time, we want to watch fights. That's just how it is.
Yeah,
so it's like,
dude. Instantaneously.
And it doesn't matter if they're
somebody's
good
going
fights,
out into the
bad fights,
street,
yeah.
like
it doesn't matter.
Go out
100%.
Watch.
It doesn't matter if they're good fighters, bad fighters. We want to watch fighting. So it's everyone makes this idea that like, oh, it's talent. It's the talent. UFC has better talent. That might be 1% of it. The bigger piece is that the production's unbelievable. The show, when you go to a show, I tell everyone, we were just talking about we don't want to go to a show, but if you want to go to a live sporting event unlike anything else you'll ever go to your whole life,
oh, hands down,
go to a UFC event. It's unbelievable.
It'll
It'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
And so like I'm like that is
much more than like this is no knock on the NFL or anything or the NBA, but it's just a different vibe. It's a different level of excitement.
Yeah, it's different.
Like the football
makes you
game,
feel
you're
different.
sitting there for the commercial breaks. Like the UFC, you kind of get a little bit of that, but it's not Not as much, man.
No,
Like,
and they're so short. Like in a fight, you get a minute commercial maybe.
Yeah.
And even then, you're like talking to your friends like that.
And I can't imagine. I've never set cage side for one, but ultimately, if I'm going to take it in or if I'm going to go, that's the only way I'm going to go. Like I've set ringside for some different organizations.
Yeah.
Like at BKFC and stuff like that. And
BKFC sick.
It's
to
a
watch.
whole nother
I heard
level.
Power Slap is crazy to watch. Like all these things that are just a car crash
Yeah.
waiting to happen. You're like, I would liken it probably to like watching. If you go to Vegas and watch like one of these crazy aerial shows where you're like, are they
one
going
of
to
the
drop
Cirque
him?
shows
Are they going to
or
drop
something?
him? Is he going to fall? Is
Bro, have
something
you ever
bad
been
gonna
to one of
happen?
those?
I've been to a couple, yeah. And the whole time you're like, oh,
Have you ever been to Circus Soleil's Ka?
Is it sick?
Oh
I'll have
my
to go
God.
next time
You
I'm in
got to
Vegas.
go, dude. Let me
Okay.
know. I might be able to hook you up.
Okay.
Because I do a bunch of stuff at the MGM still, but
Shit, fight week will go, man. That'd be cool.
dude, it's incredible. You got to take Amanda.
Yeah, she'd
take her
love
to
that.
that show. It's wild, dude. They like I said, I've done some like crazy shows, like including with like the military and military aircraft and Super Bowl halftimes. I have never in my life seen a production like that where I was like totally blown away and not sitting like in the front row or anything too. Like anywhere that you sit in there, you have fucking performers like flying over you. There's
wow.
like 2 or 3 people that have died performing in the show.
Wow.
And you'll see
So that's what
why
I'm
when you
saying.
go.
People are like crave that.
Bro, there's this stage and it's that whole like kind of Shogun, like Morimoto, like warrior
sick.
type shit.
Oh,
like
wow.
so it's kind of a
Hell
samurai type warrior
That'd be
type
cool.
vibe, like Japanese vibe. But they have this stage that's like 160,000 pounds, dude.
Oh, wow.
And at one point, it literally picks up and spins like a top. And there's performers on it with no ropes, no
God.
fuck. It is wild.
That's
bro.
insane. Yeah,
It's
I'll
cool.
definitely hit you up. We'll have to
It's
get
cool.
that thing sorted out because
Yeah.
I'm down. But that's what I'm saying. People crave just disaster, really, I think.
Yeah,
That's why
no.
you see people like when I'm watching, if you want to watch a video on the internet, you'll go down a rabbit hole of like, oh, car wrecks or buildings, whatever. For whatever reason, people just are drawn to watch that. And so it doesn't matter the talent. It's just the UFC is so good at marketing.
The UFC is one of my
Broadcasting.
favorite sports, hands down, that I enjoy watching. But like, as a spectator, I think the coolest events that I've ever been to are motocross.
Oh,
Have you ever been to like
yeah,
a
I've been to
Supercross?
Yeah, like in Atlanta, they used to have the big
Fucking
Supercross.
badass,
and
dude.
it's
Just the
unreal, yeah.
pyro. They do a good job with that too.
It's sick.
And then I was
Back when I went, when did I go? When like Bubba Stewart and Chad
Oh,
Reed,
yeah. Those
Ricky
guys.
Carmichael. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like who I was growing
OGs.
up with. Yeah.
Okay,
Back in the
yeah.
day.
no, that's awesome, man. And then the freestyle motocross stuff is fucking insane too.
Oh, like yeah, that seems crazy to me.
It's-
like Travis Pastrana and that kind of
yeah,
group.
it's
like,
wild, man.
those
Like,
guys are
my
unreal.
buddy Mickey Diamond had a show for a while called Nuclear Cowboys.
Oh wow.
And they would go into like an arena, and it was kind of like a scripted, I guess as much as freestyle motocross could be scripted. It was a fucking awesome
That's
show,
sick.
dude.
Have you
'cause it
ever
was
been to
all,
like a rodeo or anything like that? Is that the similar feeling? or
Yeah,
whatever?
not
I've never
as-
been to one.
Not as much as like there's something about an engine and like hearing the rev and like
It just feels
yeah,
dangerous.
rodeos are crazy, dude. Like I've been up close and personal with some rodeos stuff, like like standing like where they actually like open the gate and the bull comes out, like
Oh wow, look at that.
standing behind there. It's fucking
They're on fire,
unbelievable.
dude. That's
Oh
insane.
yeah, dude. This was like if you want to watch some
They're
good,
like, how can we make this more? How can we make jumping 40 feet in the air more dangerous? Like, let's light each other on fire and do
Oh,
it. Hell
totally.
yeah.
I mean, if you want to do like kind of a throwback, like Mickey Diamond, shout out to Mickey Diamond. He's a godfather of freestyle motocross.
Sick.
But a throwback, like when I was a kid, and I'm dating myself now, there was this video series that came out. Like skate videos were really big, like on VHS, like skateboarders
Yeah.
and like snowboard videos and stuff. So the moto guys never really had one. So they started this thing called Crusty Demons of Dirt.
Crusty Demons?
Yeah, and it ended up being like a 12-year long like series, and it was all like all the top guys that kind of forged the sport in freestyle motocross did that. Pull some Crusty Demons of Dirt. So these guys were just in LA partying their asses off, and they would film their parties and them riding, and they were just
Oh,
hitting
it's like
these
Triple X.
natural.
You know
yeah,
that movie Triple
yeah.
X? That's what probably came from, I bet. They
Yeah.
just do
Oh,
it.
yeah. Well, there actually used to be a video series called Triple X as well. But this was like Mike Metzger, Brian Deegan,
Oh,
fucking
okay.
Mickey Diamond, like kind of all the godfathers of freestyle motocross. This dude Seth Inslow, that like, I mean, they were doing crazy shit, like jumping their houses and just like just living wild, dude.
Yeah.
And
That's living, dude.
yeah, it was awesome, man. And I was watching this at like 12, 13 years old. You know, I was like, fuck yeah, let's go, dude.
Like, I'm gonna ride
I mean, there's a
motocross.
reason why I rode my dirt bike on the golf course and had to work there for an entire summer to pay for the fucking damage, you know? Like, so this was kind of the punk rock of
It's kind of like same
sports,
era
you
as
know?
like, remember that show Tap Out where they're like riding
Yeah.
around? It's like same era.
Yeah, no,
Similar
it
that
is.
way, yeah.
I think a lot of I think the Tap Out guys owned a motocross brand of clothing for
It
a while
makes
too. It
sense,
was
yeah.
Sex Money Power, I think,
yeah.
was their SMP.
It's interesting, like all, you know, you say that, like you find these like connections between all these groups, but they're all doing the same shit, just like
100%.
living balls to the wall, like just doing wild shit. They're all somehow connected. There's no mistake for that.
What's crazy about these things is like my buddy Mickey, through it all, you would think that these guys are like fucking snorting lines and drinking Jack Daniels, and
Sober
like
as fuck.
Mickey was sober like the whole time. Like they would just go, like he used to ride around with Tommy Lee on this. I probably shouldn't be telling this story, but they used to go do some wild shit, and he's like, yeah, we were just sober the whole time. You know,
They were getting high off that. That's what they're getting high off. Yeah.
The adrenaline of, you know, wrecking a Harley or whatever it was, you know, or fucking
Yeah,
dirt
dude. I
bike.
don't, you know, I think that's probably a more common thing, right? Like I don't ever really drink or do any like drugs because I feel like no high really is gonna be as good as like I'm gonna go fight this dude, right? Which is a weird thing, but it's like I've done that before, but I've never felt it doesn't come close, right? So it's like there's no point. It's like I don't feel any different. I can do this sober and have just as good a time.
I can imagine, because even though I'm not rolling now, like I get that feeling from just going to jiu-jitsu and rolling like for the last half of class, you know, like you come out of it with like this kind of buzz euphoria where it's like, okay, asshole, cut me off. I don't care. You know,
Yeah.
I don't even give a shit. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's kind of that, it's just a stress relief. But I can imagine you throw a crowd in the mix of anything, like some of the coolest things I've ever been involved with in my life was from a touring standpoint and watching like the walkout for a band
Yeah.
is like some of the coolest shit that I've ever experienced, like walking into a stadium or an arena. So I get like that sort of feeling.
Yeah, and I
You
think
know,
that's why a
but
lot
the-
of guys struggle. Like everyone wonders why is this guy still fighting, or what? Like Cowboy just said he's gonna come back, and
Yeah.
people are like, why the hell would you do that? And it's like, if you've never done it, man, it's hard. You can't replace it. There's no replacement. So it's like, what am I gonna do when this is done? You know what I mean? So they don't ever quit. They just keep coming back. Same reason Tony Ferguson's still fighting, because you can't fill that void with anything else, and it is an addiction for sure. Like, you got to have it, and it's
Yeah.
like, and I would rather those guys go get knocked out, lose fights. Everyone asks me like, what do you think about this guy still fighting? I'm like, I'd rather him do that than the alternative, which is like be getting fucked up and doing crazy drugs. And
Well, that's the problem. You turn around. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. Like, to bring it back to military guys, and I'm not comparing the two. It's two different, entirely different career paths and what we expect of men and women that serve the country. But like, it's the same sort of thing. A lot of those guys, that's why the suicide rate is so fucking high in that, man. And like, it's like, you can't, once you've gone down range and fucking gotten to watch, you know, explosions and just like
how do you
it's
ever
very primal,
and just
right?
like the team aspect. I think that's a
Yeah.
hard thing. Like that's the thing that like anticipation for me is like the scariest thing about being done with fighting is that growing up my whole life was on teams, then was in college on teams, and then as soon as I got out of college I was coaching college, so I was part of a team, then started fighting, was part of a team, and it's like, dude, if you don't have that team, it's hard. Life can be really hard if you're oriented that way. If you're not oriented that way, that's cool, but
You got to find a way to build it. What I found from having guys sit in here that have been high level military or whatever, it's like you, in the next evolution, you have to find a way to build that team, whether it's through coaching or starting a business and building a team that way. But I've even done it with my family, man. It's like I treat my kids I don't know that this is the best philosophy, but I really treat them like friends. Like where I'll talk to them, I'll listen to them.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of filters with them. I mean, I am more reserved because I want to be a good influence. I don't tell them every story that I would tell you.
Right.
But
I mean, that's a cool thing you get to bring to the table.
yeah.
To be able to tell your kids cool stories. I mean, that's part of the reason I do my shit too, is I'm like, dude, I want to be able to tell my kids, look at all this crazy shit your parents were doing. My wife as well. I'm like,
I know,
you
that's
guys
wild.
never, yeah, you guys can't ever tell me, like, I don't think I can do this. Like, no one's doing this. Because we never believe that shit. So you guys, and there's proof that we never believe that shit.
Are your kids in school right now? Or
No, my youngest she'll be 2. She's 1.5, and then my oldest will be 4 in February.
What will set it apart, and you'll really notice it, is when they start going to school and they start meeting friends, and then you have to go hang out with those friends' parents.
Like, I'm like, oh no,
no, it's just
that's gonna
crazy.
be that conversation. That's gonna be like what you're talking about earlier. Like
Yeah.
you're just like, okay, tell your story, and then you're like, oh man, that was the story. That's great.
Yeah, no, it's kind of that, and that's no disrespect to any of those people, that I know. And I've heard some great stories too. I mean, there's some crazy people out there, but
it is
but
weird
it's
though. You
just
don't
funny.
feel adjusted. I feel
No.
like fighters, like you're talking about team members, like it's hard to probably feel adjusted to like normal society. Like I always laugh. I always talk to my mom, and she still lives where I'm from. Like I was saying, small town, and like she asks people are like, so what do your kids do? And she's like, well, my one son, he's a engineer for Michelin. My other son, he's an accountant. My daughter's a PA, and then my other son, he fights in the UFC. And they're like, what the fuck? He fights in the UFC? She's like, yeah, he's a professional fighter.
Right.
And they don't even get it. But I'm like, so like,
do you find yourself having to explain to people all the time, like normal people, like this is what it's like, or like that sort of?
I mean, people are curious for sure, but it's like, they're still like, if I play football, they're like, do you do NFL? I'm like, yeah, I do NFL. You do UFC? I'm like, yeah, I do UFC. But yeah, I mean, especially where I'm from, like explaining it to people is because fighting is not a thing. Like, like there weren't fights. If there was a fight in the high school, it was like we talked about it for 6 months. We're like, dude,
It was in
that
the-
fight was crazy 6 months ago.
It was in the newspaper and everything.
Like
right?
it just didn't happen, man. Fighting, I'm not from a fighting culture, so to speak.
Yeah.
In terms of where I went to school and stuff, and so yeah, they're like, so you fight professionally and you get paid for that. I'm like, well, I get paid now, but like I'll never forget my first fight. Like my parents have always been supportive of me. They want me to do what I want, but I think fighting is a hard sell for any parent. I fight. My wife fought, and if our daughter came to us tomorrow and was like, hey, I want to fight, it'd be like, maybe not. Like do something else, right? So it's a hard sell to any parent, but I'll never forget my first fight. I didn't tell anyone. And my wife, she wasn't my wife at the time. She was just my coach. She signed me up for it, right? She was like, you're going to take this
She was
fight.
like your manager too, or something.
So
right?
she's like, hey, you're fighting next week. And at the time I was living in my car. Like, she's like, I signed you up. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't even know if I want to fight. She's like, well, I already signed the contract. I'm like, oh, fuck. All right, I guess. So I go in Ohio. It was same day weigh-ins for amateurs. So you'd weigh in the morning, fight at night. And I posted a picture, I think, of like.
Where were you guys living then? Were you in Michigan? Okay.
Yeah. And so he posted a picture of me and this dude facing off. My dad calls me. He's like, hey, what are you doing right now? I'm like, oh, I'm just in Ohio. He's like, yeah, what are you doing there? I'm like, well, I'm going to fight this guy tonight. He's like, you're fighting? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, how much you getting paid for? I'm like, oh, it's for free. Because there's amateurs, they don't pay you. I'm like, I'm fighting him for free. He's like, you fucking stupid. Like, what are you doing? And then like, I kept telling him after every fight, I'm like, there's these people, like, because I didn't believe this shit. But like, my wife was in the UFC. I had like pretty high level, decent people around me. They're like, dude, you're going to make it. And I was like, dude, Dad, they're telling me I'm going to be in the UFC. He's like, it's a scam. You're not going to be in it. He's like, the UFC, Cody. I'm like, they're saying it.
Yeah.
And now I'm there. They're like, dude, good thing you didn't listen to us and you made it. I'm like,
Well, that's the thing. It's like no matter what you're doing, you have to be kind of all in, and you have to bet on yourself. You can't. Nobody's gonna give you shit, dude.
Well,
in this world.
it's still crazy to me that I'm here, to be honest. Like, I never thought. I was like, I like fighting, and I wanted a team so bad, and I was like, all my best friends are doing this, my wife's doing this, like, I want to be a part of this group, and so if I have to fight to be a part of this group, I like fighting, it's cool, let's do it. But it was
like
never
that gang
intentions.
mentality, dude.
Yeah, it was like never intentions of like, oh, I'm gonna make it big.
But you grew up wrestling, right? And then wrestled in college. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean,
So I was
think
like super
that's
aggressive, and my dad's like, "Yeah, we got to get you into something." To
Really?
like, yeah. So he put me in wrestling, and I lost. I never won for 2 years straight. Like, was owning like 60, and I was like, "This is bullshit. I'm not doing this anymore." I was like, "Dad, I don't want to do this." And he's like, "Well, you can you can want in one hand, you can shit in the other and see which one fills up faster, basically. And so then he just made me stick with it. And I think he saw the bigger pieces of it. Like wrestling is, I think, maybe the best sport in terms of like discipline and
So it's the biggest, I think.
just being regimented. And he was very big into that. And he didn't really care about the wins and the losses because I didn't have energy to fight with my siblings when I got home because I was wrestling, and kind of chilled me out a little bit. And now he probably regrets that he put me in it, but
Shout out to Dad, though.
Yeah.
Forging men. I think sports, and the reason why I entertain it, like when my son came to me and said that he wants to play football, and I think the more physical that they get and the more chance of getting hurt, it's a more of a way to build character, resilience, to really test yourself, and to do shit that you don't want to do, I think is the biggest thing.
such a key.
Like,
to
who
life,
wants to go to
dude.
the gym?
Such a
every
key to life.
time that I'm putting on my gi, I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this, dude? This is so
I could
stupid.
totally just not do this. right
Yeah,
now.
like you make that choice, but then whenever you leave, you always feel good. I did it this morning going to the gym. I was like, fuck, Cody's coming in. We had a bunch of company over last night. We were up kind of late, and I was like, I'm not gonna go to the gym. I was laid there, and I was like, no, pussy, get up, go to the gym.
Yeah.
Like,
You've never left there being like, damn, I wish I didn't do that.
yeah, and if I didn't go to the gym and was sitting in here with you now, it'd still be a good time, but I wouldn't be in the right mindset. I'd probably be like,
Man, I should
probably be a shitty conversation, Cody.
You're like, I need to. Like, man, I wish I would have done that
Yeah.
this morning. I think, yeah, it's such an important thing in life to be uncomfortable and to just do shit that, like you said, you don't really want to do because you're like this. I don't love talking about this all the time because I feel like it gets overdone in the media and shit. But like, that's like the basis of being a strong man. Like, you just figure it out, man. Like, you got to do shit all the time you don't want to do, but you just have the responsibility of a man. Really, the main responsibility is like figure it the fuck out.
100%.
Like, and that can
that's
go.
why-
That covers every aspect of your
Not to
life.
dive off into this, but this is one thing that I'm very vocal about, and I think that we should be as men, especially as role models. This whole like stifling of masculinity, like it's not okay to be violent. It's not okay to be, have any sort of ego or anything like that. It's like there's a level of confidence that has to come with doing something hard, whether you're playing football or stepping into a UFC octagon or you're trying to take down a fucking 600-pound animal with your bow. Like, you have to have like a little bit of confidence and ego to even in yourself and belief in yourself, I think, to flip that switch and to just sit back and stifle young men, to tell them you can't be confident, you can't voice your opinion, you need to stay in these lines, you can't be violent. I think it's a recipe for destruction of society, right? Because to me,
Well,
what
like
I'm
you're saying, think about, so you were at Denver fights.
yeah.
And you don't stand up and help that dude. That dude gets his ass beat, potentially seriously
Dude, the only
injured.
reason I got involved is I was like, okay, nobody's like, the guy wasn't throwing like crazy punches, but when it got to that glass level, I was like, somebody's going to go over the edge.
Yeah.
Like,
But you're the only one. And that's
Yeah.
out of 300 people watching that happen. The security
Right.
guard who's supposed, and that's because, like you said, the confidence, like you have confidence to do that. I talked to Coach G, he's a police officer in Denver. And he says the biggest reason that they have issues with like threat escalation is lack of confidence. Coach G trains every day. He's a straight up gangster, great boxer, jiu-jitsu, knows it all, right? He's been a cop for like 25 years. He's like, very rarely do I have to elevate threat a ton because I have confidence that if it becomes a situation, I can handle
if
myself.
you're sitting across from somebody and like they're law enforcement and you're about to have a gunfight, I could only imagine like,
well, even before it gets to that level, like it gets.
That's what I'm
it
saying,
Gets raised
yeah.
to that level.
if
because
you're
it's
looking
like-
across and see that the cop's nervous, then you're thinking, I might have a chance at this. But if
Yeah.
you have somebody like Graham Dunn that we had in here, or Coach G standing across from you that's had fucking multiple gunfights and is like, no, motherfucker, today, I'm
Yeah.
Dirty Harry.
yeah, and he's got enough confidence though that like,
I'm going to question myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
And so I think, having confidence in yourself is huge, especially for young men. And I think today more than 5 years ago, more than 10 years ago, like that's a thing that is viewed negatively. And I think it's insane.
Yeah.
As a dad too, it's like, I want like my girls to be strong women. I have strong women all over my life. My wife is one of the strongest women probably out there. My mom was a national team member on the biathlon, shooting, skiing.
Right,
yeah, like
dude.
she's an absolute savage.
That's so, I need to have your mom on here, dude.
Yeah, she'd be a good one. But I'm
That's
saying,
a
like,
crazy
I have strong
sport.
women all
Yeah.
around me. I don't think I want my girls to be strong, but I want them to find strong men too. I want them to find men that are
That's the thing is
have
like,
conviction, have confidence. Like
Yes.
that's an important thing.
and treat them right. That's part of being masculine is knowing your limitations and what you're capable of. I think is another thing that comes with that confidence. Like if you know that you're capable of fucking smashing everybody in the room, but you don't do that.
I'll tell you what, since
Right?
I got in the UFC, I've been in way less fights than when I was in college.
Yeah.
Like as my skills grow, like my temperament is easier because I'm like, what happens? What does it prove for me to go like a dude? For instance, me and Bobby are out. We start going at it, or words start being exchanged like, "Oh, you're a pussy. I'd beat your ass." Okay, like, but Cody,
don't.
college, yeah, college. Cody's like, "All right, we're fighting."
You're right.
Now I'm like, dude, it would take a lot for me to really fight someone on the street because one, I know the consequence if I do that, and two, like, it proves nothing. I don't prove
The
anything.
only time
by doing
that I would intervene is if
like the situation, like at the
yeah, or especially if you hurt any of my kids or my wife or my mom, I'm gonna kill you, dude.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
But then we're not fighting. Now
Yeah.
we're talking about a whole different thing.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing nowadays too. I don't think it matters how much time you spend on the mat or in a cage or whatever. I think the real shit is going to happen. Like if somebody
they're trying to take that. We'll just look at that instance that just happened, right, with that Marine in New York, right? It was in New York. Right?
Yeah.
That guy was like threatening women, kids on that subway, and he took matters into his own hands, and now he's facing potential issues, right?
It happened to me firsthand.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
like, but we're teaching people like, don't do that, don't be that guy.
Right.
But there are people in this world, and you have a lot of them that come on the show that are always going to be that guy.
That's why those people come on the show, because those providers and protectors, man. And like you talk to anybody that's performed at the highest level, they don't disagree with that opinion, man. And I think that there is a difference about like flying around and like if you're treating women like shit or fucking hurting people that are less capable or not as strong as
then
you,
you're just a bully.
then has nothing to do with masculinity. That's the furthest thing from it.
That's
bro.
what, yeah, 100%.
That's a weak individual. That's a weak mindset. That's a weak
That's
person.
somebody that the people that we're talking about would go handle.
Oh, destroy him.
Yeah. So it's like, I think sometimes that maybe is the issue too, is that there's never a
Sure.
real like definition of it. They're like, oh, look at that guy, that big guy who's picking on that little guy. What a toxic masculinity. And you're like, no, it's not toxic masculinity. That guy's just an asshole. Like that
Right.
We're not talking about the same thing, right? Like
I think one of my favorite quotes of all times comes from the Hells Angels. It says, everybody thinks they're a tough guy until they meet one. You know, and it's so
that's the
true
truth,
because
yeah.
you know, a lot of times I am the
that.
biggest
I like
guy
that
in
a
the
lot.
room. A lot of times I probably could handle myself in a lot of situations with mutual friends or at a school event or whatever. But the moment that Derek Wolf walks into the room, you know what I mean?
Like,
It's
what
like,
is this other
oh,
species
fuck.
of human?
Or I'm sitting across from Cody Brundage right now.
Oh,
you know,
no.
it's like, no, but there is. And it's crazy, man. It is wild. Like we were talking about operators and like, I'm so lucky that I know the people that I know from the entertainment industry, and some of the SEALs that I have as like personal friends now, or former SEALs or Green Berets, like Jeremiah.
You would never.
If you saw that cowboy at
Nicest
a
dude,
gas
yeah.
station and he was talking shit, I might think twice about fighting him. But if I knew the real Jeremiah,
I would never think
dude,
twice. I wouldn't
are you
think three
kidding
times.
me,
I'd be
bro?
out of there.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like you can never size it up. Like, so I went to BKFC one night. And I went with the Parkers, and we took a couple SEALs out. And afterwards, we ended up going to a bar. Alcohol involved, right?
Always.
There's some guys standing out front. These two individuals look like the most unassuming guys. Like they dress kind of like that younger hipster.
Like hipster looking, yeah.
Like just don't, like they were wearing like dress shoes and shit. And like I'm in Vans and like, I always look like a biker going into every situation, or a rock and roll dude or always dressed in black. These guys are wearing like colorful shirt, like just they're dressed nice, right?
Yeah.
Like much nicer than we're kind of going into like a biker type bar. And there's these two guys out front just like chiming off. I'm like, they have no idea this guy's a former Navy SEAL and could probably
That's
fucking
the thing.
clean
Like, you don't
their
know
clock,
who anyone
dude.
is.
That's what I'm saying.
So you should just and back to that topic. It's like, man, I don't want to harp on it forever, but you can't have a strong society unless you have strong men that will provide and protect, like you're talking about. And
that could be for women too. I think it's okay for women to be masculine, not go. I don't agree with going and getting a sex change, but I mean, I guess if that's really what you want to do,
really what you want to do, yeah.
What I'm saying is like chemically or medically enhancing that. You don't need to do that to be. Yeah. I mean, women have proven it firsthand in the UFC, man. Mm-hmm. Like, there's some fucking savages out there, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Like killers.
I know. I live with one.
That's right. Yeah, Amanda.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, I think it's an important part. And, I only have girls right now, but if I have a son, I don't want them to ever feel like them being a strong person. I mean, it's the same thing for my girls. I don't want any of my kids thinking being a strong person that's confident and has conviction is a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a boy, whether you're a girl, whatever. I don't think that should ever be viewed as a negative thing. And I think if you start to make that the norm in society, it's not good.
It's just so weird, like not to dive into politics this isn't even politics, this is history. Like our country was founded on people fighting and standing up for themselves, and we're like stifling that. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, do we not?
And like, I think it's sad. I think something that's sad, like I've watched my wife, who is a super strong woman, like we've talked about, become a mom, and she's such a strong mom. But like nowadays, people like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a mom, and that's viewed as like, oh, you're a mom. Like, oh, that's not. Yeah. Oh, what do you do though? Like, don't you feel like you should don't you feel like you should do something? I'm like,
that's so much harder than what I do or you do, bro.
Like, dude, what?
It's crazy. Yeah.
I spend 2 hours with the kids, just me, and like I'm SOSing, calling her. I'm like, when are you gonna be back? I need you back here immediately.
Yeah, man. Especially at the ages. How old are yours right now?
Almost 2, and then 4.
Oh, dude. Yeah, you are nuts. Like, yeah, it's crazy, dude. You got some awesome years. Just enjoy this time. Because in its own right, like this time is super special for so many different reasons. And you won't realize this until they get a little bit older. But like what really put it in perspective for me is we had our first 2 pretty close together. So 2 years apart. So 4 and 2 at one point. And it's crazy. And then it's like, man, when are they going to get out of diapers? When are they going to talk? When are they going to walk? When can we go for a bike ride? Like, when can we go do shit?
Right,
Like, so I was very like always fast tracking it and like being a problem solver. Like roadies are the best problem solvers in the world, dude. That's what they do, dude. Yeah. Like doing it on the fly, on the road. Like, so I was constantly like, oh yeah, we can put all the toys over here, like, no, fuck that. Let's do this. Let's do that, to like cut corners. And like you start making your kids more advanced by making them read and stuff before they go to school and all this like sort of stuff. So I didn't realize it until we had the third, which, was unexpected. And watching the first 2 grow up and how fast they grow up, it made me appreciate her. And she's grown up the fastest out of all of them because she's got older siblings.
Yeah.
So yeah, man,
I feel like I'm fortunate that way with like Kingsley because it was so different, right? Like she's nonverbal, so it's like watching her grow up. And now with Millie, she's like, we always say we have one nonverbal and one that got all the extra verbal because she's like, dude, whatever Kingsley does have, she took double. Yeah. So
how is Kingsley, man?
She's great, man.
I don't want to bring it up.
No, it's good. We could bring
it
up. It's good. I think it's good for people to hear. There's a lot of people that are going through what we're going through, and I think the more I heard people talk about it, the better.
Sure.
It's like, hey, man, this is doable.
That's a great perspective, man. Yeah. We've had a lot of people share some personal stuff on here, and it's like the response that we get is always. I don't think I've ever gotten a negative response, but it's crazy when somebody reaches out and be like, oh my God, I'm going through that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, it's like, it's super good, man. I think the goals we've had, she's like really crushed her goals. I always joke. I'm like, physically, like she's walking, she can feed herself. She does a lot of things they told us she'd never do. And I'm like, it's just because she has great superior genetics,
Yeah.
you know. But
That's
I'm
crazy.
like-
Have the seizures because
so she's seizure free.
seizures
Yeah, 2 years
in a
seizure
day?
free now, which has been crazy.
That is insane, man.
Yeah, so she would have. They were like, she was never having like grand mal seizures, but she was
Okay.
having like, they're called focal seizures, where she would just like stop, stare off, and then her brain was like, whatever, like
Oh man.
having a different rhythm. But so yeah, she's 2 years seizure free. She's meeting all of her goals. She's over at the Napa Center, which the people over there are just unbelievable. Like,
And I'm sorry, what was the diagnosis again?
so it's a mutation of ALG13 gene. It's a CDG variant, so it's the way she processes carbs. And they actually there's a study that they just found a treatment for another CDG, not her gene, but another CDG variant of another gene. And now they're going to take that research and try to apply it to hers. So that's
Wow.
like pretty good news. And
So it's all diet related.
kind of
Stuff?
like, sort of like when she was on keto, it definitely curbed her seizures, but now she's on one medicine, and it's curbed her seizures, and she's pretty much eating what she wants. So
Oh,
we'll
that's
see.
awesome.
The problem is typically it doesn't
So
last
hard
that
with
long.
a kid.
Yeah.
You got to put them on a regimented diet as a kid.
Oh, it
It's
was the
like-
worst. When
yeah.
she was on keto, it was like terrible. Like the meal she'd eat, she'd have to eat like cottage cheese mixed with. It was just like, ugh, I would not want to do this if I was a
Right.
kid, right? But she's a trooper, and she's like super happy. She's super easy to deal with. Like she's way easier than my 2-year-old. Like for real. She's very like self-sufficient, entertains herself, but yeah, I mean, she's given me really good perspective, and you know, just to be thankful for little things and to kind of take it day by day. Because if I take it and be like, man, what's it gonna look like at 18 years? I get overwhelmed. So I realized, man, you can't do that. You got to be like, what's Monday gonna look like, right? She's in preschool now, so that's good. Like she's socializing, which is important, and then
So huge.
yeah, it's been huge. And then, like I said, I think it's been huge for us watching Millie. Like, it's almost like being first-time parents with Millie because it's a whole different experience, right? So, because Kingsley,
Yeah, you didn't really get to experience that. with
yeah, I mean, Kingsley didn't
'cause,
walk till
like,
she was like 2.5, you know, and Millie's
Yeah.
like was walking like 10 months, and she's saying words, and like, so it's just a different experience, and you know, it just makes you appreciative, honestly, and grateful. And it seems like a weird thing to say, like, oh, I'm grateful, but there's no real alternative. The alternative is such a negative thing. So it's like, I'm just grateful that she's happy, and I know she's happy, and she knows who I am, right? Like she's always happy to see me, and she knows I'm dad, whether she's saying it or not. And yeah, I think I'm grateful for all of that. So
That's rad, man.
Yeah.
It's a great outlook to have, man. Like after talking to so many people in here with just like crazy stories, like that always seems to be the best outcome is like they come out of the other side of it being a better person no matter what the situation is, or it makes you a better person.
yeah, you know, I've
Puts
seen some
life in
crazy
perspective,
stats about
like-
like kids with like disabilities, and like the divorce rate for kids with disabilities is like 80%. And me and Bobby,
Really?
we talked about, Bobby brought that to me, and I was like, that seems crazy. Like, I feel like us not being together would be like the worst thing. Like, even if we
Yeah,
like,
like
couldn't
you
stand
need,
each
like,
other,
a
like for
teammate to
Kingsley, like
tackle
would be-
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I could not handle it. And
Whew.
yeah, so it's like, it's just kind of interesting, those kind of things. But yeah, I feel like we're super lucky things work out, right? We came here for MMA, and MMA has been awesome, but the resources that Colorado has for children, and the Children's Hospital and Napa Center, and just the things that they can provide Kingsley, like Michigan doesn't have, South Carolina, where I'm from, doesn't have. So it just, things work out for a reason, right? So
Yeah,
it's
we
been
have
good.
some awesome hospitals here for
Oh yeah,
kids.
it's super good.
especially.
Yeah. Her resources are unreal. Like, she's just starting intensive therapy. She starts in like 2 weeks, and it's 3 weeks, 4 hours a day, and like they just hammer these kids. It's like she's in fight camp basically. So
Really?
we'll be in fight camp together. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Do the kids recognize what you do, or do they watch or anything?
My kids don't. I don't.
Yeah.
I think like, so my youngest, like, she'll watch fights, and whether I'm fighting or not, she's like, "Daddy, is Daddy fighting?" I'm like, "No, I'm not fighting right now."
Yeah.
But like any fight that's on.
It's hard to keep away from your kids, especially
Yeah.
if you're watching it every Saturday for 5 hours, bro. It's like, yeah.
And they love, like, my kids love watching. Like, when the fights are on, they want two things on the TV. It's either Gracie's Corner or they want fights.
Really?
Yeah, and that's it. And that's the only thing that'll chill them out. So,
You're raising savages yourself, dude. Yeah.
but I don't know, man. I feel like I'm scarred. I watched that Mark Coleman where he like brought his kids to the fights, and then he got absolutely
so hard.
demolished, and then
So
he brings
hard.
his kids in, and they're
Well,
like,
just like you said, just the punters that you're dealing with,
Oh, yeah.
like to bring your family there.
like
yeah.
Bobby we were at open mat like probably a few weeks ago, and Bobby's like, "Let's train a little bit, like let's spar." I'm like, I don't really want to spar. She's like, "No, we're gonna spar." I'm like, okay. So the kids are like sitting in their like wagon watching us spar, and my kids are immediately like crying. I'm like, "No, dude, this is not domestic violence. This is all consensual."
Oh, you were sparring against her. Yeah. Oh my god.
I'm like, they're just watching their parents fight. I'm like, I'm not sure this is the greatest thing they could be doing, but
yeah,
it's pretty funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. Like, just the different ways that kids can grow up, like very sheltered, but like gym kids are some of the best kids. Like kids that grow up on mats are like,
that was always
I love
those
those kids,
dream, dude.
man.
That was always my dream. Like, I didn't grow up on the mats, but they were always like the coaches' kids were always around. I'm like, dude, that's gonna be my kids. And
look at them. Dude.
Oh yeah, they're like. My kids are not shy at all. Like they're up to like they know everybody on the team, and they're a part of the team. And because that was one thing, moving here, we don't have like a ton of family. Well, there's no family really here other than Factory X, like who my family is there, but those aren't no blood family. So it's like those are the people we lean on, and so they've really become like a part of my circle. That's like, hey, like when I went and fought Nick Maximov in my debut was when we got Kingsley's diagnosis. Jera, Coach Mark's wife, went with Bobby to the meeting with our neuro. Yeah. So it was like,
man, they've been nothing but just like stellar people to me without me asking them to, or like, I don't think I've ever asked them for one thing that they've given me other than like, hey, you want to come hang out for a couple hours? And they're just awesome, fucking awesome people. That whole family, Brooklyn. Yeah. Super good. I haven't met Wyatt in person. Well, that's not true. I met Wyatt, I think.
Wyatt's the man, dude.
Wyatt's fucking crazy, dude. And then, just Mark and just the whole squad, like you included, it feels very much like a family or like a tribe. And yeah, man, you guys are fucking awesome, man.
Yeah. I feel
everybody
super
at
blessed,
Factory
man.
X,
Everything kind of works out for, like I said, for a reason. And Factory X is where I'm supposed to be. It's where I'll be until I'm done fighting, and then I'll just be around that old guy telling his war stories at the gym.
Hell yeah!
I used to be in here.
I'll come listen, bro. I'll be the older guy sitting next to you.
Hell yeah!
Fucking awesome. All right, so what else do you got going on? I mean, going into fight camp, pretty fucking dedicated, and between being a dad. But do you have anything outside of the UFC or outside of fighting that you're pursuing at the moment, or
not really, man, to be honest? Coaching, like that's always like been a passion of mine, and coach was able to be like, hey man, I want you to come coach full time, especially when I was like, I need to take a break and figure out what I want to do. And I've got to travel with a lot of these guys, and
that's super rad, like going
it's a ton of
as
fun,
a coach,
man.
right?
Yeah, like with Yusuf and Dustin and Onama, and then some of these younger
you've
kids.
been on
been everywhere,
like,
bro.
You're going Mark's fucking in somebody's corner, like, seems like every weekend, I know it's not, but thank
pretty
goodness.
much, yeah, almost.
But really, and then I see you there with them a lot, so.
Yeah, just, getting to have the mentorship from all those guys I feel super lucky.
And it keeps you around the sport, too.
Well, that was part of the reason, right? So I was like, I don't know if I want to fight anymore, right? But I know if I go be like a firefighter or something like that, I'm not gonna do that and then also try to fight. So while I'm trying to figure it out, let me coach. I'm still in the gym every day. I'm still with the guys. And then if I want to take a few more
Are you
fights,
thinking about going into being a first responder?
Yeah, I think that's the path for me after.
That's so crazy, Stipe, dude. I think that's so badass.
I think it's
like
sick,
what he does. Yeah,
I think like I said, I think it lines up a lot with some of the things I value as a fighter in terms of like team and living and like, there's a lot of parallels, and I think it's something I would enjoy doing because, man, the worst thing for me, I think, would be to like have to go to work every day and be like, dude, this sucks. Right? Yeah. Like I don't want to ever be in that slow death. So I think
it's crazy. I think to do one of those jobs, you genuinely have to want to do it, just like fighting, right? Like I think that we just had Brian Camozzi in.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brian. I don't know if there's bad blood there or anything between Factory X or. I don't know how all that works out. I'm just like try to be genuine and nice to everybody. But I think it's so amazing that, after his UFC career, that now he's a full-time Denver PD and just out like running calls. And
so I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know if I want to go police or if I want to go firefighter. I have kind of friends in both, and they both are telling me like, well, this is why you want to do this is why you want to do that. And But I think that's my path probably afterwards. And I don't know like how much more I'll fight. You know, I think it's such a hit or miss thing. I know I'm
just ride that wave as long as you can.
I know, man. It's like
I'm
never going to fight like I was. I'm never going to fight 6 times in 14 months. I'm never going to try to be the most active dude.
Do what's good for you and your family. Like, fuck everybody else, dude. Like, I think that's the biggest thing.
That's the key, yeah. I think maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and I'm only 30, so that could be a while, or I could be like, hey, man, I feel good. You know, one thing I realized with the break, right, and I say everyone's like, dude, it was only 4 months. Like, you're acting like it was so long, but people don't realize in 4 months I was fighting twice. Like, that was typically what I was doing.
Right.
So 4 months of doing nothing was a long time, and it was like,
that's how I feel this 3 weeks without having any fights. I'm like,
crazy.
what is going on, dude? Like,
so like for me, it was just kind of like, if I ever feel like I don't want to do it, I won't do it. And then if I decide 6 months after I decide I don't want to do it, that I do, then I'll come back and figure it out. But I'm just doing it because I like it and I'm good at it.
Yeah. How many years are you going in now? Because they're like, probably 10 years is a fight career, really, if you include wrestling. Yeah. Which I do. I think it's just as rigorous.
Wrestling, then
oh man,
shit, dude.
Well, I mean, from a collegiate level, right? Because what
collegiate,
are you, 30?
I wrestled 5 years in college, and then
so at least 12 years, like competing at a high level in some sort of. Yeah. I consider wrestling a combat sport.
I got in the UFC pretty quick, so I was only a pro for like 2 years, and it was in the middle of COVID too, so like not a ton of activity there. And then got signed to the UFC. I have more fights in the UFC than I had outside of it. So it was like,
really, that's crazy,
which is cool. But like growing up in the UFC is fucking hard, dude.
It's a hell of a way to break yourself in, right?
But yeah, I definitely got some mileage, and I'm still in my prime. I feel good. Like my body feels good. I've been very fortunate that I haven't had too many injuries, but I don't know. I know that time, like where I'm gonna be like, hey man, I don't think I'm done fighting, is coming. And before I'm like, I'll fight forever, right? Like, and I think a big part of it is like my brain.
Like,
I think the concussions was a big thing where I was like, I didn't like not feeling myself. I didn't like not being in control of my emotions and not really having a reason why. And
that shit's real, man. I'm glad that you have that perception of it, because that shit you can't put that back in the bottle. And you can't
get it back, yeah. And like I've been in a not great place mentally, and I know concussions aren't going to help that, right? And luckily I've been super good for a long time, but I could see where, that could lead down a dark path. And my number one priority, like I've said, is to be a good dad and good husband. And, being a good fighter is dope, but if I'm not doing those two things, it doesn't really fucking matter. So I just don't want to ever like lose. I don't want to end up like some people that I see, and it's super sad to me. And I'm like, man, I knew you when you were super intelligent, easy to have a conversation with, could talk about anything, and we're informed. And now I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? Right. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people like that in our sport, and
there's a lot of guys that stay too long, man.
Yeah, and I don't want to ever be there. And I think I'm like realistic enough and like have good enough people around me to be like, hey man, let's just be done with this, and I feel confident in that, and that's a good thing. And that's not right now. I'm super excited for this fight in March, and I'm fighting a guy I'm super familiar with. I trained with him for a year at Factory X, and
that's right.
He's a buddy of mine.
Dude, when I first saw it, I thought it was Benoit, and I was like, wait a minute.
I'm going
Did Cody change
Cody chop his leg off?
I was so confused by that.
Yeah, so Julian's a buddy, and that's weird kind of, but at the same time, I've never looked at fighting as like I won't say it as a personal thing, because it's always personal, but I've never looked at it as like, oh, I fucking hate this dude, right? Like I've never done that. So, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, I know Julian, he's a good dude. If he knocked me out, I'm not going to feel differently about Julian. I'm not going to be like, man, fuck you, Julian. I can't believe you did that. I get it. So it's a little weird.
How do you build aggression then? Where's the aggression? Do you like block it out that it's your friend across from you, or how do you?
Well, I mean, to me, I'm like, dude, I fought him for free for a year, right? Like now we're just getting paid, but I mean, I never want to like permanently hurt somebody where they're like out forever. That's never my intention. But at the end of the day, like it's business, and he's trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do to him in that 15 minutes, and then outside of that 15 minutes, like I know he's a good dude. He knows I'm a good dude. There's no reason for me to be like, man,
Dude, some of
hate
my
this guy.
best friends I fucking fist fought with, dude. Like,
Most of
in
them,
my
right?
life, yeah.
Same.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've never fought somebody that I've really been like super familiar with. But you know, it is what it is. I know that Julian, he texted me. He was like, "Dude, you said yes to this fight." I'm like, I kind of had to, bro.
Yeah.
Like we're in, you know, that's part of the sport. You're in a spot where you can't. It's the last fight on my deal, so it's like not really in a spot to say no, and neither is he. So it's like, let's just handle this. And like I said, we fought for free for a long time, so at least we're gonna get paid, and then we'll go from there. So I'm excited for it though. It's good. It's a good fight. He's a tough dude, and like I said, there's good things about the familiarity, and then there's some negative things, but it'll be a different experience for sure, which will be fun. And I'm just excited to get back in there, man. It's been 8 months, and to me, that's like an eternity. And
yeah,
I feel
what
good
was the
mentally.
recovery process with your concussion? How long did that take? And it's like, as
so-
you get older, it takes longer, right?
Yeah,
Like,
so
it's
I
not-
think like the waking up like super emotional and some of the symptoms, it was probably like 6 weeks to where I was like, okay, now I'm like starting to get away from that. And then I did a lot of neuro work with my PTs over at Barwis, which they do a ton of neuro work with like quads and paraplegics, and so that helped a ton, I think, and like really just tried to focus in on like, okay, let me just get my brain feeling right before I get back in there. And there's a lot of like light therapy and things like that. And
what do you think was the biggest help out of all that? If somebody,
I think just the time off. I think like not taking any head trauma, not taking any trauma really. You know, I was just in the gym coaching. I wasn't training. I wasn't practicing with the guys. I was like, which was tough because I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'm here. I might as well train. But just kind of this fear, I think, and being scared of like, hey man, this was not a good thing. Like,
well, even to the point like doing like crossword puzzles can be damaging or prolong it.
or,
right?
you know, like looking
it's
at
insane.
one thing that was good about it was I was always on my phone.
Yeah,
And then like being on my phone would kind of like trigger some symptoms. So I like couldn't be on my phone, which was a really good thing.
same with my
honestly.
son. Like his favorite pastime thing after he gets everything done is to game.
Yeah.
Like to play Halo or whatever he
I
plays.
couldn't do
and
any
it's like-
gaming either.
he was like, I can't even do that. So that's when I knew he was fucked up. Because like
Right.
the one thing he really loves to do, like, yeah.
So I think good. I think the time off was good for a lot of reasons, but just for my brain, I think it was good. And like I said, I don't think I would be doing right by Bobby and the kids if I was like, all right, I'm gonna hop right back in. So I had to take some time off. And she would never like tell me, hey, you need to fight again or whatever. But when I told her I was fighting again, she's like, well, good, you're a good fighter. You need to fight again.
Hell yeah.
But so, you know, that was good to have her support. And coach kind of said the same thing. He's like, yeah, I want you to fight again. I just want you to take time.
I want you to fight again.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I want to fight again too, right? Like I had to kind of like figure it out. But
Yeah.
and you know, I think part of it is like don't let people steal your joy. And I was like kind of letting that happen where I was like, do I not want to fight again because of everyone else, or do I not want to fight again because I don't want to fight again? And it's like, no, you want to, but you're kind of like buying into all the noise. And I think that's easy to do. And so I'm not like hard on myself for that. But at a certain point, it's like, dude, fuck
Yeah.
these people.
Especially at that. Yeah, just fucking prove them wrong, man. Fuck them.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Or just
dude.
fuck them, dude. Because you're not, like I said, you're
Right.
never going to prove them wrong. You're never going to prove
please
them right.
Yeah.
Like I've knocked people out. I've had crazy, like historic shit. I had the 14th slam knockout in UFC history in 30 years.
Oh,
of
I
the
know. I
company.
was there
And
for
people
it.
are still like, you fucking suck. Come on. All right, man. I suck, whatever. So like you'll never
Yeah.
prove people that want to hate on you wrong or right. Like, so just do it because you want to do it. And the other thing
Good to
was-
have haters. I
Yeah.
mean, back to Goggins, I think that's one of the biggest things.
Well,
like,
that's what blows his
so
content up.
crazy,
Yeah.
right? Like he puts that in his head and runs down the street, dude. Like it's a mixtape.
He's
you
like,
know?
fuck all you guys. It's like, no one's talking to you, dude.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. That was an interesting thing. I forget who fought. Dustin fought on the same card as Tony when he had Goggins in his corner. And
Oh, right.
yeah, Goggins is like, we were
I could
there.
only
It
imagine.
was so interesting, man, because like this guy.
They should have mic'd him up.
They
for
should
that.
have. But he
Yeah.
was so like, we checked in. I'll never forget. We checked in and Goggins is like giving the death stare to everyone. I'm like, damn, bro, this guy's angry. All
got
that
some balls
time.
on
I'm
him,
like,
huh?
this guy's so angry, bro. I'm like, dude, no one hates
Yeah.
you here. I promise. We've probably all listened to your book. Like, come on, dude, relax.
Dude, the worst is to put somebody that's not, and I'm not saying that Goggins is not an alpha, but in that scenario, like walking
yeah.
into UFC, like, I'll tell you what, man, like, even when somebody walks in here, like, that is more badass than I am, which is 90% of the people that sit across me. It's like kind of one of the rules, you know. It's like, could this person hurt me, or could this person
That's the checklist.
outsmart me, or like, yeah. I like a good challenge, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, even then, like, you get me around like my operator buddies, or if I'm hanging out with you or Dustin, I'm gonna take a few more chances than I would if I'm hanging out with Joe and Larry, dude. You know, at the happy hour or whatever. Like,
that's just funny. Yeah,
it's like men, you know, it kind of pushes you. So I could see like him going into that, like, especially with the like persona that he's got.
Oh yeah,
is not a nice guy.
Well, it had to be like, you know, it had to be weird because I'm sure he's not around that very often. Where he's like, "Am I the dude in this room?" Like, he's always
not
the dude
in that
in
room.
the room.
Sorry,
right?
David, I love you, bro, but like, not in that room.
Yeah, it's interesting. But like, I mean, I think I've like listened to all his books, and you know, I think it's interesting to. Just
Could he run further than anybody in there?
Fuck
Probably. Yeah.
He's definitely outrunning me. If it's a race, I'm getting my ass beat, bro. That shit's funny.
You close him in an octagon, that's a different story, right?
Climb out that motherfucker, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, shit. 2025, you're the 201st episode. Fucking awesome to have you here, bro. You're welcome back anytime.
We'll link up right after this fight because I think it's gonna be a good one.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Need to be in here more. It's good for me.
Yeah, man. Come in as much as you want, dude. I'd love to have you anytime. We can add somebody too, man. Like,
maybe me and DJ will come in here.
Let's do it. Yeah. No, I was just talking to DJ too, and I think we're gonna have him back here shortly. And yeah, dude, anytime, podcast or not, you're welcome up here, dude. There's so much cool shit to do. Bring the family up, take them to the lake, or
get Bobby on here sometime too, bro. She has way cooler stories than me.
Yeah, let's go. They're all welcome, man. So yeah, let's go. March 1st is the fight.
Yes, sir.
Where's it at?
Vegas.
Oh, okay. That's
I think
cool.
they renovated it in this break, so I think they're supposed to have a ton of seating and should be interesting. Because I mean, you put a small building like that and with a lot of crowd, it's going to be pretty rowdy.
Well, when you get in Dana's ear, tell him our Coliseum idea, dude.
I got you.
Yeah.
Dude, I still can't believe you haven't done that. That needs to happen. I thought BKFC was maybe doing that.
I got stuff all around the world, dude. That like,
they're going to Spain. I bet there's some dope arenas they could go there.
I was talking to, and if anybody steals this idea, I'm gonna fucking beat their ass, dude. But talking to Kamosi and David, who owns BKFC, I was like, yo, this is what you need to do. It's like Chris Kamosi, Jake Paul, White House lawn, Trump, Kid Rock open the show. Let's fucking go, dude. Like,
I better get a ticket to that.
I can do all the production shit, dude. Let's
White
go.
House lawn? Hell yeah, let's go.
So it's crazy because like Teddy Roosevelt, there's like fight history at the White House. Like, I don't know if you know that.
Yeah,
like,
Teddy Roosevelt was a boxer.
Yeah. Pretty badass.
I'd tune in.
And
I'd fly out there for that.
I think Jack Dempsey, Colorado fighter, shout out, I think he fought on the White House lawn for a president at one point or something.
That'd
pretty
be cool.
crazy.
You know, Trump be down too.
Oh, Trump would so be down. Like, all you have to do is put in Trump's ear that it's some part of history, like the biggest boxing event at the White House.
He's like,
history.
done.
He's like, men, testosterone. I like fighting. Let's go. You know? Like,
oh yeah. He's a big dude. I didn't realize how big he is.
Did you get a chance to meet him?
I've seen him at some of the UFC events. He's not a small guy at all. He's a freak. I'm like, no, wait, what? He's like 6'3", 6'4". He's a big dude.
I seen him at a show one time. This is long before he was like running for president. He was quite a bit younger, but I saw him at an event one time that I was doing production work. In the unmistakable hair.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I know we're supposed to be wrapping this up. My kids for Christmas got me a couple different things. Fat guy stuff, you know? So like they got me I love Sour Patch Kids. They're like one of my biggest vices.
Hell
like, like anytime that the kids have them, I'm like, give me one of those, you know? Like, but they bought me some that were and I'm a huge like I love berry flavored stuff. I love berries in general. So they were black. I think they were blackberry, but they were Cole, right? So I got that for Christmas. And then they got me Donald Trump hair, and it's this butterscotch like cotton candy, and like came in this like container with this American flag on it and shit. It's fucking funny. Yeah. He got a haircut though, or something. Have you seen his new? He's got a haircut like you now, dude.
He went to Turkey, bro. He got all done up, dude. I'm telling you, game changer.
Yeah. Look up Trump's new haircut. You gotta see this.
Is he going the slick back now?
I think it's the one there in the white polo.
This one? He's rocking the slick back.
No,
I think
that's
it's
not it.
bro. When he does, there it is.
Oh my god, dude! Look, that's the Trump cotton candy right there. The slick back looks better.
Yeah, when he does his walkout, man, it is.
Dude, he needs to go just Joe Rogan, man, or
Straight
Bobby
bald.
Marshall, just fucking shave that shit, bro. Let's go.
I couldn't let mine go. That's what Bobby told me. You need to let it go. I'm like, no, I can't do it.
As soon as I started getting the sunroof and guys started noticing it, because the worst part is normally where you start balding is the back of your head, so you can't see it when you're in the mirror, like doing your hair.
You finally found a picture, like taken down is on your hair.
No, in my industry, like you have to bend over and pick shit up off the ground, right? So some guy that I'd known for years, and he's a fucking New Yorker, so he's an asshole to begin with, is like, hey, what the fuck happened to your head, dude? Like, you're getting old, huh? And this is a guy that I had given shit for years, you know. It was much older than me, but I was like, oh, fuck, man. Now I got to start shaving my head.
That's what
I tell you what, it's the most comfortable
Coach
thing.
said the day he found, like, his son was like, damn, Dad, you're doing the side cut. That's what he used to call it when guys were balding. He's like, the side cut? Hell no. It's done. Shaved it all off.
That's what I do, man. Just fucking.
I said, Coach, what if you just went to Turkey and then went missing for like 6 months and then just showed up with a full head of hair? People were like, what the hell?
Donald Trump. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, trying to hang on to it, that's got to be so stressful. Like, what is like, fuck, it's breezy outside, dude. Like, fuck this, you know? Like, I'm not going out there, bro. He probably doesn't give a fuck. He's got bigger problems to deal with. He don't give a shit. But I thought I swore it must have been an AI thing or something.
That's hilarious.
It had to be. You got to be careful. You don't know what the fuck you're looking at.
I know, dude. AI's everywhere now. You're like,
bro. It's crazy.
And just fake stories in general. Like the funniest. I know we're trying to finish, but one of the funniest stories.
I'm in no hurry. We can keep going. Let's keep going.
All right. Brian Ortega, he did like an interview, and it was like before he fought. I forget who he's fighting, but he's like, you can look up eagle shedding their beak or something. And he's like telling this story. He's like, so.
Is that a fake story? Because I know
this. It's not even real. It's like completely fake. He's like, every 40 years, an eagle bites off its beak or smashes its beak and bites off its claws. And I was like,
my God.
I was like, is this for real? I Googled it.
Dude,
it's like,
I've
this
seen
is a
that
fake
story,
ass
and I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Fuck?
Oh my God.
He's
dude.
like telling the story, like, this is why he's a new person. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, well, I looked it up.
Yeah, because the story was like you get another 40 years of life, or you get to choose or die,
or
right?
you die. I'm like, damn, that's such a
That's
badass
all
story.
bullshit,
it's all
huh?
fake.
That's hilarious.
It's not true at all. I'm
Dude, that's got to be one of the biggest trolls of all
I'm
time,
like,
dude. Whoever wrote that shit is like...
And, you know, Brian Ortega's talking about, he's like, yeah, man, I just had to make a decision. I'm like, dude, you got toast on this.
Dude, you got to be careful what you regurgitate, man. Like, I found that out the hard way on here. Like, I've said some shit, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
Well, that's like a thing in all media, right? Like, I've seen, like, I'll do an interview, and they'll, like, post, like, a headline from the interview, and it makes me look like a total dickhead, and no one will go watch the interview. So they just read the headline, they're like, this guy's a fucking asshole. I'm like, dude, that's not what I said. I just want to point that out.
Right.
I don't usually care, but one time a guy did that, and I had to, like, get on his ass. I was like, dude, I'm not doing any more shit with you, and no one from Factory X is unless you fucking fix this headline, because I'm not an asshole.
Yeah, those people that are... My goal is always to make our guests look good. So even when the editors bring me something, I'm like, I don't know if they'd like it. Then I'll send it to the guest and be like, yo, is this good enough? Like,
yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with like former military guys or like law enforcement dudes.
You don't want to put them in like a shady light,
man.
Yeah.
But you also want to like tell their story.
Know the people too, so you're like, these are my homies. Like, most people are just like, let me get clickbait and like the most controversial shit that I can find. Like, I remember when I fought Bo, I was like, everyone's acting like he's the second coming of Jesus Christ, and people were like, and Bo was like, well, I'm a Christian, so that really upsets me. I'm like, dude, it's just a saying. Like, I heard that my whole life. What do you think you're the second coming of Jesus Christ? I'm like, no, I don't. So I'm like, that I wasn't trying to talk shit on your religion, brother. It's not that deep, you know?
Yeah. Well, it can all be taken out of context and spun. Like, I've had it happen on here where people have called me a bigot or whatever for something I've said, and there's like, did you listen to what we were talking about for 15 minutes prior to that
15-second clip and made it?
Yeah. It happens, man.
It happens more times than not. So you got to just be careful with some of that shit. But yeah, I just thought it was hilarious.
The eagle smashes
and
his
everyone
beak
was
off.
like, dude, can you see that shit? I'm like, dude, it's hilarious.
That's crazy. So I had a wildlife photographer in here not too long. I think it was last month or November. A buddy of mine, Jason Loftus, like the most incredible wildlife photographer
That's
you've
sick.
ever seen. Pull up Untamed Images, dude. Wait till you see some of these fucking, like, he goes to like Norway and shoots like, yeah, Untamed Images on Instagram. I'm name dropping him all the time and looking at his stuff constantly, so it should come up pretty quick. Yeah, it's that one right there with the ram's head. So like he goes all over the world, just taking like the most incredible.
That'd be a sick job, huh?
Oh my god, dude, so badass. He's like just published all over the place.
Click on that grizzly one up there.
Oh, it's frozen for you guys.
Is it? Oh, there's our reel.
That's sick. Wow.
Yeah, dude, that's a great photo. I mean, it looks like a fucking painting.
Yeah.
And his photos are so good that there's actually a guy that made a painting of that
And
photograph.
probably
Like
looks
it
just
happens
it,
all the
shit.
time.
What a sick job.
But Jason's so cool, man. Like, but I think anybody thinks like, oh, if I had a camera that was like his, I could go do that. And I can tell you firsthand,
No.
you cannot, man. Like the amount of time that this guy spends outside freezing his ass off and like
to get the perfect
to get these
shot.
shots and like going
I mean,
to
he probably
Norway.
took 100,000 photos to get that one picture, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. He's like, and I think that's part of it too, is like the selection process of what makes the cut and what doesn't.
You know,
like,
there's like a wildlife sanctuary in Colorado that's got like 1,000 like tigers and bears just on like a
I've heard
8,000
about this
acre thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know where I heard about it? It was Tiger King. They
Oh,
took a lot
really?
of the tigers from there and put them out in Colorado. There's just this huge sanctuary in Colorado.
I think my brother took his kids to it or something. It's like down in the Springs or some shit.
It's in shit. Look it up. It's called
Dude, those poor fucking tigers are freezing their asses
they're
off
like-
right now from
like, what
India to here, bro.
This is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's I forget where it is, but it's crazy. Like it's just like free land, like open land. So they're not really like in enclosures or anything.
Oh,
they're
really?
Just like running around. I'm like, how
Well,
nuts
that's
if one of those
honestly-
motherfuckers gets out though? You just got a tiger running around Littleton.
Bro, that's crazy. I think at one point a cobra got out at the Denver Zoo.
Well, you know, there's this place I'm from South Carolina, and there's this place in Myrtle Beach. It's called Alligator World. There's like 1,500 alligators, and they get hurricanes there all the time. I'm like, dude, this is going to be a real problem. Like,
Crazy, man. Like a tiger running around or something. Well, I mean, look at Florida, dude, with anacondas. Like that's an invasive species there.
oh yeah,
And they're huge snakes, man.
Yeah, 20
Somebody's
feet
going to
long.
get eaten, bro.
Yeah, somebody's
Like,
getting fucked up.
yeah, man. It's wild. I guess that's kind of like the coolest thing about Jason's photography is it's truly wildlife. Like
I wonder
this is
how
all,
I wonder how
like none of
close he
these are
is.
zoo animals.
How close do you think he is when he's taking these pictures?
He's far away.
Because it looks like he's like right next.
No,
to
he's like he's got a lens that reaches out to like 500 mil. Like, so this all comes down to like that's the camera quality.
Oh, that
and
buffalo
then the
one.
glass.
I've seen that before. That's
Oh,
like
dude.
super famous. I feel like
So badass. You've probably seen some of his stuff on like covers of magazines and like he's a great follow, man. Like because anything he puts out is quality. Some of these deer are Colorado deer.
wow.
He's got like one of his most iconic photos. It was taken right here in Colorado of an elk, dude, and it's just so badass. Like it made all kinds of covers. The polar bears are fucking dope, though.
That's
dude.
sick. I think I'm going on my first elk hunt this year, so I'm pretty
Are you?
pumped for that. Yeah, me and DJ. DJ's gonna take
Let's
me out
go.
and coach. So I'm like, hell
That's
yeah, that'd be
awesome.
Sick. You know, I'm from like the East Coast, and I never really appealed to me to go hunting to just
Yeah.
sit in a stand or whatever. But out here, it's different. You know, you like tracking and
That's rad.
moving. Yeah, so I'm excited for that. I think it'll be good.
Dude, there's nothing. I love elk hunting so much, especially like during archery season. So like if you go in those early rifle seasons, they're still kind of bugling and stuff. It's
Oh, yeah.
so badass, man.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
so
I think
cool.
I think it'll be fun, and you know, I feel like we're always like doing. I always joke like. Everyone's like, "What's it like living in Colorado? There's so much to do. You can go hiking and hunting." I'm like, "Yeah, I train." And then
Dude, I'm
like,
in the
"Fuck
gym."
this.
Yeah.
I don't want to go do anything. I'm like, I want to actually take advantage of some of this shit out here. You know? It's
Yeah.
like, you can't do anywhere else. So
Dude, there's so much you can do here. It's so awesome. So yeah, did you get your hunter safety and all that stuff
I got
already?
it coming up. Yeah,
Okay.
right after this fight. So me
Nice.
and all the 14-year-old kids will be in there killing
No,
it.
dude, there'll be some adults there, bro. Yeah, no, that's cool. And then, yeah, you got to spend a little bit of time. I'm sure Dustin, Mark, dude.
Yeah,
fucking
I got two good
Mark's-
ones. So I'm like, hell yeah. I think that makes
Those
it a
guys
little
will
bit
set you
easier.
straight. I'd be glad to help you out too.
Yeah,
with
hell yeah.
anything, dude,
Be dope.
that I can, you know. or that you want help with. But
All
yeah,
of
it was crazy.
I'm a brand new. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Oh, dude, you just got to get out there. It's like anything. You got to get out there and you got to do it. And you got to, I mean, the success rate is very, very fucking low. So it's like, I think you explained in your UFC career, like your first like actual like pro fight or your first real fight, you knocked a motherfucker out, right? And you were supposed to just wrestle.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm the greatest in the world. Hunting can be like that, dude. You can all of a sudden like have some luck and like right out of the gate, or you can go 5 or 6 years without even. There's guys that go 5 or 6 years without seeing an elk, dude, that I know like firsthand. And it's
luck
not because
is a key to life.
they're not trying, dude. You know what I mean? It's like there's just this is a huge learning curve to it. But
I bet. I feel
but
good
like
though,
having
too.
Dustin in your corner and Mark and like me and dude,
people that know what they're doing, for sure.
But you gotta be willing to want to learn too.
Yeah.
That's
and
the hard
embrace
part.
it. They always tell me like you gotta embrace the suck a little bit because it's not always fun.
Yeah,
you get out
it's
there,
so
cold,
funny.
and you gotta be fucking ready to rock.
Oh yeah, dude, it's very humbling, man. Like, I think it was awesome. My buddy Donnie Vinson, like probably one of the most world-renowned hunters of all time, man. Like this guy is just savage, but he's also a videographer.
Oh, nice.
So he makes like the most beautiful films, dude. Like
That's sick.
unbelievable films.
Have you seen that video of Luke Bryan?
No.
Oh, dude. So he shoots this deer and he's like having a full on like panic attack about shooting this deer. He's like, did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it? The guy's like, chill out, man. You got it. Relax. He's like, can we go get it? Can we go get it? It's like hilarious. I'm like, that's going to be me. First elk I shoot.
Oh, dude, the emotional roller coaster is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I know those guys love it. And like every year I'm like, Dustin, you fight? And he's like, well, it's elk season, so probably not. I'm like, all right, must be good, bro.
How crazy is he that he got called out of elk camp twice to go fight or something, right? He's like, I was
to
drinking
Madison Square
Coors
Garden.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to say no, but he was supposed to corner or something. He's like, I can't just show up there and say no, so fuck it, I'll fight him.
Yeah.
Cool story, shit. Off the mountain. My first fight, coach was on the mountain. He hikes up. He always gives me shit for this. My first fight, him and Dustin were both hunting, so they weren't there. And he hiked up to like 12,000 feet elevation to get cell service and call me. And I hear him, like, he leaves me a voicemail because I didn't answer. Oh. Yeah. And he's like, Cody, you're going to do great. And he's like clearly like dying. He's like, thanks for answering
Went
my
out of
phone
his
call,
way
you
to hike
fucking
to cell
asshole.
phone
I'm like, oh,
service.
shit, my bad, man.
Yeah. It goes straight to voicemail. That's crazy, dude. Like 90% of the people you call nowadays, it goes to voicemail.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
I'd rather talk to you on the phone than text you, to be honest.
Oh, I'm the same way, dude.
Like, it's going to take me like 10 texts to figure out what this is. If I just call you, take me 20 seconds.
Or it can be taken out of context,
always,
like what you're saying or something. It's always. Yeah.
Like, oh, this asshole.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my bad.
That's good to know. I'll start calling you because we did a lot of back and forth, dude. Like
easier on the call for
yeah.
sure.
No, I'm the same way. It's funny because if people send me, I have a rule. Like you send me more than like 4 or 5 consecutive texts. Like if we're having a conversation, I'm calling your ass, dude. Like
for sure.
This big dumb guy, it takes too much brain power to put it into.
I'm not reading this novel you
even
sent
with
me.
Siri and all that sort of shit, dude. Like yeah,
100%.
yeah. We can figure this out real quick.
Yeah, I'm all about the call. And then I hate one of my biggest pet peeves is if you text me and then I call you. Like you text me as soon as I get it, I call you, so I know you're on your phone. You don't answer.
Yeah.
I'm like, motherfucker, just answer your phone. It's so much easier.
Or just the phone tag back and forth.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
it's
I
crazy.
can't
Like
stand
I
that
get
shit.
it. I deal with some busy people, and I'm in a podcast, ignoring phone calls. But I kind of pride myself. Like that's one of the things I pride myself on. If somebody calls me, I try to pick up.
Yeah,
like,
get back to him. 100%.
even when I don't want to.
Yeah. Right. Nah,
If I know the person, like.
Oh,
of course,
I'm
letting
not.
some of the
I'm not. If I don't have your number, I'm not answering it. And my rule is like, if it's important,
This
enough,
is the Street Troopers Association. You're like bullshit, dude. Like
you'll leave me a voicemail.
they don't have an Indian
accent.
accent.
Yeah, state trooper somewhere, not here, motherfucker. Have you seen those videos of the guys that like someone with like a scammer will call them, and then they somehow have like a video of the call center, and they'll like scam them back, and they'll be like,
Really?
"What's your name?" They're like, "My name's Jason." They're like, "Your name's not Jason. Your name's whatever," and you're sitting next to, and they like,
Oh shit!
oh, it's hilarious,
Like some
bro.
Scream type shit. Huh?
Yeah. I'm like, oh shit.
That's cool. How do they get that? Just
I
through
have no
like some
idea.
sort of technology
People can
or
get
something, huh?
people get technology's crazy. Like after my fight, this random number was like blowing up my wife. Like your husband's a bitch. He's like just going off, right?
Really?
Yeah, and so Colin, my buddy, he texts the number, and because we looked up the guy's number, and like a name came up, and Colin texted me. He's like, "What's up, Dean?" or whatever the dude's name was. He's like, "Who's this?" And Colin like made up some story, and anyway, the guy somehow got all of Colin's information, and it was like a total shit show. He like messages Colin. He's like, "Your name's Colin Anglin, and you live here, and you're married to this person." I'm like, "Oh, dude." Colin just like turns his phone off. He's like, "I'm not dealing with this right now."
You know what I get all the time is so like on Instagram, whenever I see you guys make a post or a fight announcement, I always try to be supportive and be like, "Let's fucking go," or "Let's go," or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But automatically, dude, the bookies come out of the woodwork like, "Oh, I see you're rolling with Cody, Brundage, or whatever. You want to make a side bet for like..."
Really?
But it's all like a scam, dude.
Oh, like they just want you to
like,
send
I've
them
never
money.
bid on it, but I think Dustin was telling me, like, he had a friend that like made a bet.
He's
like,
like,
"Yeah,
hell yeah.
motherfucker, I'm gonna fucking bet you."
They go,
and
to
he
you
got
and
him
do
for
it?
like 300 or
Wow.
something or whatever it is.
doesn't
But yeah,
surprise me.
they're like, you know, you want to bet 500 on the side, but then they're just trying to get they're not actually betting with you.
Yeah,
They just
they're
want
like,
your-
send it, and
yeah.
then when he wins, they'll pay you out, and then they never pay you out.
Who
You never
does
hear
that,
from them
dude?
again.
Yeah.
Shit, they're getting rich somehow. Like, making their money.
That's wild, man. There's so many scams out there.
Oh,
Like
I know.
the ones
my
that
wife
you get
is the
from the
worst.
UPS and stuff all the time.
Oh,
Like
yeah, it's
your
like, click
package
this
is at your
link.
front
Oh,
door,
yeah.
and like,
They'll be texting me all the time. "Oh, we couldn't deliver your package. It's at UPS. Click this link." I'm like, "I'm not clicking the link."
Yeah.
Bobby, like when we first moved here, we were like looking to rent places, and she would like always send me these like Facebook Market listings, and it was like $1,200 for a 7,000 square foot house. I'm like,
With a
Bobby,
pool.
yeah, I'm like, Bobby, this is bullshit. It's not real. She's like,
shopping
"It's
for
a
a
great
used
deal."
car is the worst,
Oh, it's
dude.
impossible.
Like on those,
you can't
things.
do it on Marketplace.
No.
I like I've tried before. I'm like looking on there, and then you click on it. It's like they list that thing like 800 times, and it's like,
No, you
yeah,
got to
this
go
is
to like
horseshit.
Auto Trader
Yeah.
or like a legitimate where they have to pay to put it up
Yeah, 100%.
because
Facebook
yeah.
Market's just trash. I'm like, my wife's gonna send me out to sell our $5 toaster. I'm just gonna get killed by some crazy person.
bro, it's crazy. I mean, this was fucking 25 years ago or something. Back when like Craigslist was a
Oh yeah, I remember.
thing before like Facebook Marketplace or anything. I don't even know if Facebook was around then. It might have been MySpace or some
Remember
shit.
MySpace, dude? You had your top 5. People were going to war over their top 5. Had like your top 5 friends.
Oh, dude,
Like I was in,
that's a way to end so many
I was in like
friendships.
middle school, and it was like, "I'm your number 3. This is bullshit."
What the fuck? I don't know. I was never really on MySpace all that much. I was because it was when I was first getting started into the music industry, and I think that site was originally set up for like music.
Yeah, you could like play like have like your song on your banner.
Right.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
like- I was only
that's
on
right.
it for a
When you
little
would
bit,
show
but it
up,
was like,
music would play
yeah,
on your
you'd have like
page,
your
right?
own song you could play. And
Yeah, I guess I never really realized that. Like, probably not too many girls out there when they first hear Slayer are like, "Oh, that guy's good looking. I want to." What the fuck? Now I'm putting it together, bro.
Damn, bro, they really set me up.
But I didn't even interact with people on that thing really. Like, it was
yeah, I mean,
weird.
I was on there like for such a short period of time.
Bro,
'cause
you know what I
Facebook
heard?
became huge right away. What?
So unfortunately, I have a friend of mine that him and his dad were murdered in L.A. while they were sleeping in their home, dude.
Wow,
Like
that's
crazy,
That's
crazy
insane.
story. And when it came, I'm really good friends with one of their family members too. So I kind of, nobody knows why. Like there was nothing
still hasn't
shady,
been.
like that they know of.
Damn.
Like it's just crazy, crazy shit. Like no like cartel connections or anything like that. Like
So just
this was,
random.
dude. This kid was like just the most laid back, like kind of surfer skater, like.
Chill.
Maybe smoked weed every once in a while, worked in the entertainment industry. His dad was just like a construction worker. It's not like,
So they're like low key, as
Yeah.
low key as you can be.
I mean, it is LA, so maybe they got the wrong house, So this unsolved crime, right? And so the investigators and stuff that were working with it were working with my buddy, which was his cousin. They're trying to figure out why, right? They wanted some closure to this thing, like years go by. Apparently, MySpace has turned into like a total dark web type thing where like all these cartels and stuff, they're like drug deals going down on it. Like it's taken down behind the scenes, but if you type in like certain passwords,
You can get to the
like
site.
the servers and the platform's still up. So it's this total like underground
crazy.
like hits and all kinds of stuff. And they found some sort of information. I don't know exactly what it was, and I'm not at liberty to speak about it.
MySpace is just a total shit show now.
But they found like
That's crazy.
some answers on MySpace.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
That
and
is
it's
pretty
been
wild.
like taken down. Search, like pull up MySpace. Can you even still get on it?
Yeah, I think MySpace is.
Really? It's still a thing, huh?
Maybe we should bring it back, dude.
Yeah, bring up Bobby Marshall MySpace, bro. That was a good time in my life.
That's what was your top 5? Let's see.
I don't even know, bro.
Wow, dude. Your MySpace profile from the classic side
Yeah.
is still here. This is like the internet never forgets.
Oh, this could be bad, dude. I mean, luckily when I was doing like real wild in my younger years, cameras weren't on cell phones or anything. People didn't even have cell
What
phones.
a different world, huh?
Oh god, dude, you can get in trouble for anything.
The
now.
world's so different.
Just being
now.
in the wrong spot at the wrong time, Like,
Oh, yeah.
you don't even have to be a part of what's
I
going
mean,
on.
you're always getting watched too, so you just got to live your life like
It's
that.
constant.
It's interesting.
It was funny. Do your kids have the Elf on the Shelf?
They're not old
thing?
enough to do it yet, but I think next year we'll probably do it. And
Okay.
it's crazy, man. I see some parents, they're like going all out. I'm like, am I going to go that far? all
It's
out?
kind of fun, dude. Like I put them in crazy scenarios,
My
like
manager-
doing jujitsu
That's
and like
sick.
shit like that.
My
you know?
manager is Jason House. He's like next level. You
Yeah.
should go watch his stories, bro. It's unbelievable. He'll like have him like flying from like the fan. He'll have him like flying from the fan.
Oh,
I
nice.
was talking to his wife. His wife's like, yeah, if those things fall on us, I'm gonna be pissed as hell. Yeah, he does crazy shit with his.
We got this year. The wife picked up Snoop on the Stoop for me. It was like my elf. I'm
Nice.
like, what the fuck, man? I was like, all right, I'm down with Snoop.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I think Jeremy was in here the last time. He engineered the last podcast that
nice.
you
Oh,
did. Yeah. And he's like my ride or die. He's been with me since day one of the podcast.
Oh,
and
hell
like,
yeah.
Just, he's a good dude. But he's Mr. Conspiracy. So like we were doing the Christmas special and I was talking about Elf on the Shelf or whatever. And I brought in the Snoop and the Stoop and put him in here. And he's like, yeah, it's a government program. Like, they're conditioning you for cameras
He's
watching
hiding
you
out,
all the
these
time.
all these drones out. He's hiding out right now. He's in his house.
No, he's so crazy. Even though like he's been right on like 80-90% of his conspiracy stuff. He's like, yeah, look at Elf on the Shelf. It's owned by the government, dude, and all this crazy shit.
Some of the conspiracies I see, I'm like, no way. And then you start looking at it, you go down a whole rabbit hole. You're like, oh shit, this actually makes sense.
It's wild, dude. Yeah, there's some crazy shit going on out there. So no MySpace, huh? Couldn't pull it up?
No, MySpace. I mean, it does. This is it.
It's something. This is some
Yeah.
fake ass MySpace.
Yeah.
Bro. Go back
Oh,
to.
is this not? This isn't MySpace. I've never seen.
I think
MySpace.
that is.
You never
the
saw
logo.
MySpace?
No.
Damn, dude. we're
He's
old.
young,
We're
bro.
old.
He's
old.
young.
Fuck.
He's young. Yeah. How old are you, Tyler?
25.
Yeah,
I'm not
25.
even that young.
MySpace, yeah. MySpace was at the tail end when I was coming up, but I remember many a friendship being ruined over your top 5.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy because I don't.
Before there was subtweeting, there was just like getting you out of your top 5.
Right.
Now you're no longer my friend.
That's what
Yeah.
I looked your name up. That's what happens.
Oh, okay.
That makes more sense though. Uh-oh.
This is where you got to type in the dark web shit, and then you can find me, dog. Yeah, no, that was crazy, but it was wild. I was leaving here because I grew up right here, and when I decided that I wanted to fully commit and dive into the music industry, I was like, well, I got to kind of live in like either New
LA,
York or
yeah.
LA, like
Those are your two
or
options.
Nashville.
Huh? Nashville, yeah.
And I was like, I'm not really that into country music. So
Right.
at the time, like country was totally different than what it is now. You didn't have your like Zach Bryant's and like
Zach Bryan's sick.
Yeah.
That was one of the coolest concerts I've been to. Yes.
Oh, you
pretty
got to
dope
go?
concert. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Jason's like really tight with his management.
oh really?
And
That's
so
cool.
yeah, I've gone to a couple of his shows.
You know
He's
what's
a beast.
crazy is I was talking to him. I hope it still happens. I mean, I hit him up the last time he was at Red Rocks. I didn't even try at the stadium thing. Like he's on the next fucking level.
Yeah.
But I was hitting him up to be a podcast guest.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Like early on when he was just like on YouTube was
Yeah.
I think the only spot you could get his stuff.
when he was like singing by the fire. That's when
Man.
I was watching him too. I'm like, babe, this dude's sick.
Yeah.
She's like, who, the sweaty guy by the fire? I'm like, he's awesome.
So I hit him up and he was like, I'd love to, but I'm in the Navy right now, so I can't
Oh, yeah.
I can't get away. Just super nice
No, he's,
guy,
like,
man. And
total
look at him now,
superstar,
dude.
huh?
Deserves every bit of it too.
Oh, yeah.
Like
he's killing it.
what he's doing outside of it, like just giving away shit and just like
He's
it's
a
pretty
beast,
cool,
dude.
man.
I know
It's
I
badass.
know him and his team have done a lot for guys at Factory X, and
Really?
like personally, like Isaac Dolgarian, he got screwed in that fight against Rodriguez, right? And I know they paid his win bonus, and
Really?
yeah, so they've done some pretty
That's awesome.
dope shit for guys.
I got some
on my
buddies
team.
that are working for Zach now on that like stadium tour, and they said it's good people. And when you
it's
hear,
like all his homies from like his team is all guys from like when he was young,
yeah,
you know. And so like Jason was like, yeah, he wants to be there for a weight cut. And I'm like, you can come to my weight cut. Mine are pretty easy.
Nice.
I'm not an asshole. I don't get crazy. So you come, mine are pretty easy.
So he's a fan then, huh?
Yeah, he loves fighting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you get hooked up with Factory X? Just
I think just through Jason. You know, we're all signed to Iridium, and they're tight. And then
nice.
yeah, so I think just through that connection. But
That's cool.
yeah, he's a cool dude.
No, it's good when you hear stories like that of people that are actually genuine, because like I hear a lot. Like
Well, you've been around a lot, so it's like you kind of know like who is,
Yeah.
who's dope, who's not, and that's the kind of thing with fighting, right? Like I know a lot of fighters that they portray this person, and then you meet him, and you're like, not who they are,
Right.
And then vice versa. Like some people, you're like, wow, that dude's a good dude, you know? So,
Yeah. No, it's wild, man. Like at the end of the day, all you fighters are just people, and there's good and bad people in anything
Every
and
industry,
everything. And
yeah.
it's kind of like that with rock and roll too. Like some of the biggest stars that I've worked for were the biggest assholes in the world, but like some of them, they have this persona of like being a gangster or a fucking, total piece of shit, or like some of the best people I've ever been around. And like, it's crazy. Like I have a buddy of mine that's worked with me in the industry, and he's like an old LA Crip and has been to prison multiple times on multiple counts of, all kinds of shit. And like, but is one of the biggest sweethearts in the world, dude.
Yeah.
Would like do anything for me. And
it's
like,
so interesting, yeah.
it's totally left that life behind. That's in his past,
Right.
Obviously, if he was still doing it, probably wouldn't be that great of a person, but he
Yeah.
realizes. But
It's so interesting,
It's
bro.
so crazy, man.
And it's
Like,
interesting, like hear those like people like that stories, and just kind of like where they come from, why they're doing this, why they're different now, and like you can't ever get someone else's perspective, but it's interesting to hear their perspective. And
oh man, and for them to be so open about it, like most of those guys are really open about like, yeah, dude, when I was doing methamphetamine and working on my bug or whatever, it's
well,
like,
yeah,
dude,
like
it's crazy.
my wife. So when I was working for the Carpenter Union in Michigan, my wife had a cousin who worked with me, and he committed a murder out here. He was like running drugs, committed a murder out here, and then he moved back to Michigan. He did a life sentence of 25 years, which I'm an idiot, right? I'm like, a life sentence? How do you do a life sentence? Like, it's not actually his whole life, right? So he did 25 years, and like that's the guy saying like he didn't know like what life was like now. So it was just so interesting to hear him like talk about like, because he was with like the Mexican mafia, so like not like the cartels they have now, like the OGs, and it was just interesting. He's like, now I'm like, there's no way this guy would like do that to someone, right? Because he's not that dude anymore. But it's just interesting, different, and kind of cool to hear somebody else's perspective that you might not.
Oh, totally.
Not ever get, So.
It's crazy. One of my mentors in the music industry, and probably one of the most liked people that I can think of to this day. He's a guy like Dustin Jacoby when he walks in a
Quarterback
room.
energy.
Yeah. But like this dude has a beard that comes down to like his belly button, just shaved head, just built. He looks like Tank Abbott.
Okay.
Like Tank Abbott with a beard, but like way cooler to hang out with. Dude.
Yeah.
Like just a fucking awesome dude. And everybody, like no matter where you go in the world, like I've been all over the world with this guy, all over the United States multiple times, like no matter what city, what environment you're walking into, whether it's Madison Square Garden in New York or fucking, Oklahoma City or whatever at the arena, like the guy is loved. And he's just this Long Beach dude that has like this shaky past and is like, he's got prison stories of him like being in prison during the LA riots when he was like, he used to be like heavily involved in organized crime.
Yeah.
And then, came out of that kind of like in the 80s. And then in the 90s, he got thrown in prison in the LA riots, and he was telling stories about like fighting to the death in fucking an LA prison, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like insane. You're like, is this the same guy sitting in front of me? It's crazy.
and he'll openly tell you these stories.
Yeah.
They're like, You know, it's so crazy. And like,
it's cool, man.
no shame. No shame.
I think the broader like your circle can be with like people that are from so many different things, the better, because you're never going to get those experiences. Like,
No.
you hope not. I mean, shit.
Yeah, and I think those experiences make a guy like that. That makes a guy that like appreciates carrying an old lady's suitcase up the stairs at the hotel. You know what I mean?
100%. Right? This
like,
is way
fuck,
better.
I've done it.
This is way better than what I was doing.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And it's so funny, man. Just the people naturally gravitate to him because of, I don't know if it's his persona or just like his smile or like what it is, but like if they really knew his past,
They might not.
yeah, they might not.
But then once you know them, and then
Once you
then
know
you
'em,
hear your stories, you're like, damn, that's
and
crazy.
a guy
but
that would
this
do
guy's-
anything for anybody,
Yeah.
anytime, like he's a fucking great guy.
Yeah,
you know?
that's dope.
Crazy.
Super cool.
Yeah, second chances, man. You never know what life's gonna bring. So
Yeah, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever.
yeah, yeah. A few of those guys, it
Yeah.
might be more than two, right?
Take a couple of chances
Yeah.
to get it right. Yeah,
Couple
that's all right.
chances. Hell yeah, Cody. This has been fun, man. I really appreciate you coming in.
Oh, for sure. bro.
Let's hang it up. Just come back more often, man.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll get you back in here as much as you want, or you can be, dude. You always got a seat. And shout out to the whole team down at Factory X. Anything you want to drop or plug or thing before?
No, I mean, yeah. Shout out Factory X. Shout out Iridium, my team.
Yeah.
Love those guys, obviously. And then Fight March 1st. Tune in. It should be a good one. ESPN,
Absolutely.
I'm assuming. And yeah, I feel like it'll be my
Maybe I'll
best
go to
performance
the
yet.
Apex and
Come
watch a
through,
fight
dude.
if I can watch a fight there.
Come through.
Yeah, if I can figure out how to get tickets.
It'd be sick.
Yeah.
I'm down.
That'd
Let me
be
know
awesome.
if you come out, and then we'll go to that. We'll go to the show too.
Oh, let's
While you're out
do
there,
it.
We'll all go together.
That's right around my birthday too.
Perfect.
Normally, I got to double check on that, but if not, we definitely will do it. We'll get you hooked up on that too.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, that would be rad, dude. I haven't been to the Apex yet, and I feel like as long as there's not too many punters in there,
Yeah. Right.
I can handle my own.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, Cody. Follow Factory X on Instagram. It's Factory X Muay Thai MMA, and then yours is it just at Cody Brundage?
Yeah, I think Cody _Brundage
Okay.
or something.
Yeah, pull that up real quick so we can drop that. There's also links in the show notes. Are you teaching all levels at Factory X,
Yeah,
or
so
what?
I teach beginning kickboxing, advanced kickboxing, and then I teach beginning and advanced jiu-jitsu, and I teach a wrestling class now too.
Oh, damn! Just
kinda
kind of teach it
everything.
all. Huh?
Yeah, try my best. Right, I'm still learning, so
Hell
bear
yeah.
with me. But yeah, it should
Okay.
be good.
Go back up to the top, sir. Yeah, it's Cody _Brundage _ Look for the blue check mark. Let's go, dude. I'm
Cool.
excited for your next fight.
Hell yeah,
Let us
brother.
know if you need any help with anything, and maybe I'll make it out to Vegas to
I hope
catch it.
so, bro. Appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate you, brother. Tyler, take us.
Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. If you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.